Well, what's happening, Benton here? While I was in the Love's truck stop getting replacement coffee, my internet died, and then StreamYard, being a business, they're not going to keep the stream going for very long. So they killed the stream. Thanks, StreamYard. No, sir, I didn't like it. Hmm. So bear with me one moment, and we'll get the show on the road. Getting the chocolate ready, the dark chocolate ready. Prepare the theobromine, sir. The younger fellas, 20 somethings, working the overnight shift on the Loves, they're over it. Not in a bad way. I gave them on my way out the door. I gave them the old. Remember, kids, hard work performed in service of already rich corporate institutions or corporations, or however I said it. I guess I said corporations can never be a virtue. And the one guy's like, I agree. And I said, you know what? I said, I don't know how old you are, so I'm not saying anything about your generation, but when these boomers, because remember, Gen X doesn't exist on the online. There is no Gen X. So I'm like, hey, when these boomers are complaining about the younger generations, I just tell them, hey, they're better than you, man. I say they're not buying this corporate bullshit, identifying based on busting ass to make some corporation wealthier under a Cold War. We got to beat the Ruskies model, USA versus USSR. It's bread lines versus the Pepsi Challenge or whatever. So yeah, man, they're not having. I said they're better than you. It's not. How is it virtuous to bust the one's ass to make a corporation richer? And it's already rich. That don't make no sense, man. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Anyway, this stop took a little longer than anticipated, but that's okay. A solid 5 minutes of fucking around with the phones to regain connectivity. Yeah, a little bummed out that I skipped my lemon water, man. Totally forgot. And we'll get right back into it. And back to a story I was telling on the prior stream that StreamYard decided to end the stream. That's kind of shitty, man. Paying customers, taking a quick break from their live stream, and the internet drops, and then it's like, oh well, we'll just instead of using up a small amount of bandwidth, we'll just end the stream. How about that? And I know what they'd say. Oh well, some people are abusing it, and they're just doing this and doing that. What's that got to do with me? I'm not doing that. Why am I guilty for all of that? Right? What happened to? Why am I made to answer for all of these things? I don't understand. Oh shit! I don't even think I'm doing all of that. Fuck. Oh fuck! What the fuck, dude? You can't even get through here. What the hell, man? This is nuts. Should have just busted a UE and went back through the fuel island. This is crazy. They're parking everywhere. bear with me while we. The fuel's filling up now. It was a ghost town when I pulled in. There's still two lanes open, but only one actual full lane open. Two fuel lanes accessible for fuel. Back during when people would say it was a good economy, right? Meaning a lot of economic activity. By the way, just look at the, look at the gamemanship there. Like, look at the, you know, golly, man, these people are, this is nuts. I could never just park like that truck driver did and go to sleep. The corner of his trailer is like in the highway. Come on, bro. What are you doing? Probably foreign, right? Because that's probably what a lot of people would say. And yeah, probably. Probably so. Probably a foreigner. Oh, identification. Back to properly identified and, the delusion, the death, the realm of death and destruction and depravity and decadence and a literal delusion, right? And, just how strongly people identify with economy, meaning when the economic consumer activity is high, such as the truck stops are booming and many goods are going to the stores, right? That's viewed as good. And when the economic activity is less, that's viewed as bad, right? And a lot of that certainly ties into truck driving, those notions. Give me a moment. It screwed me up. The fuel stop screwed me up, and then unexpectedly starting a second stream also screwed me up here. Not me, but you know what I mean. And I'm not quite sure what point I wanted to make with the economic stuff, so we'll forget about that for now. Although the point certainly is apropos about, look at how often folks mention, in this economy or in some way view themselves in relation to economic cycles when, again, it was a benefit. I benefited from listening to the Alex Jones show every day for many years, not because of Alex Jones, the person, the info/disinformation agent, most likely under MK Ultra mind control and all of this, as far as, directly operated, by the Moloch's machine itself, right? And he's come pretty close to basically saying versions of that at times. I heard him say one time some version of, he's talking about how demonic, the so-called globalists and elites are. And he said something about, uh, he knows because he's been to some of those meetings. And then he threw in the part about, and believe me, they don't let, until a person is, and he had his own like really cute, way of saying it. But the message he was conveying is that the only way I could be there for these meetings, I would have to be one of them on some level. Right. And then I went back and spent a decent amount of time trying to find that in the podcast, the MP3 file later, and I never could find it. So, is there a method of scrubbing, from the recordings if Alex was to say something, um, that they wanted, that the system decided to remove later. And then on one of his appearances on the Joe Rogan Experience, he said something about his desire to get away from the having to cover the 24-hour news cycle. And Alex said it in a way where you could tell that it's just really not up to him. And then this idea that maybe he's been replaced because he looks different now, which, yeah, could be. I don't have a dog in that hunt, but um, he certainly, to me, as somebody who listened every day for many years, seemed like he was quite frustrated and fed up with the whole thing at a certain point. This coffee tastes fucking weird too, but we're gonna roll with it. Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer, man, for the or it could be a bummer to realize, I was cooking earlier with like 15 in the house, in the off hours, and it's like, yeah, let's build up a little momentum here on the live stream, and then, oh, that's right, I must get fuel, or I'll be trying to fuel in the daytime in Atlanta area, and that's not going to be good. And just from memory, oh, that's right, I have a fuel stop up ahead, and then realizing, oh, that's going to interrupt the discourse, which it has, and that's fine. But the missed opportunity, perhaps, looking at the two on the screen. Thank you to the two here. Although typically when I reference a small amount of listeners, one of them will usually leave. So I'm fully expecting to see the two go to a one. And that's okay. We've certainly veered into non-tent. So while I ramp back up, having lost the prior momentum, I'm in love with a trailer. There's somebody behind me that's fallen in love with the DOT bumper of this trailer, this truck. They're in love with a trailer. Imagine falling in love with a trailer, the ass end of a trailer. How bizarre. I can't imagine it. I can always complain about truck driving, right? Well, that's not true, less and less. So one of the points I was making, and in fact, in my usual style, or commonly in my one of my styles, before the fuel stop so rudely interrupted us, I was, in fact, had introduced many topics, and I believe I was in the process of bringing them all together, weaving it all back into one narrative. So part of that was the idea of how much differently my daily life is now after, and it's going to sound like a sales job, and I have nothing to sell you. I can't, fortunately, there's no possibility of packaging, true knowledge of self and then selling it. That'd be horrible, and in fact would defeat the entire purpose of this realm. I'm sure the delusion based on the proposition, right, that the greatest force possible is the most super intelligent love at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, a quickening spirit, and then antithesis always being able to put in its 2 cents and say, well, actually, what about this? What about that? And in my new framework of connecting, so let's back up. So prior to the true knowledge of self that I began to experience about 3 weeks ago now, prior to that, my various spiritual practices, meditation, a lot of actual physical work with the tissues of my body. I had a lot of physical pain, joint pain. There's there's a lot of specific terms for this type of pain. I'm forgetting what they are, but and none of this is medical advice. But working with those feelings and sensations and emotions, and whatever over time needed to happen to heal the tissues, which are not fully healed, but certainly much closer to a normal state than before. And when I began all of this, certainly I had built up, because more so than other folks, perhaps, I, used repression quite liberally. And, what, again, it's getting to be out of style or passe to reference trauma. And at this point, it certainly seems to be the case that everyone, right, has undergone their own traumas in life. At a certain point, it seemed like just the general consensus was, most people are generally, happy and healthy and all of these things, and relaxed, even though that was probably never the case. But then more and more people began to be willing to talk about trauma. And a lot of this was, of course, promoted through the TV and the social media, the internet. And then as people begin to uptake all of that, it does seem like the consensus is now that for the majority of folks, trauma, past trauma and repression and all of this is the order of the day. So certainly nothing special that I'm referencing. So part of the intensity of the, especially meditation, many years ago when I dedicated myself to at least meditating enough to become proficient, right? That was my base level. Was I dabbled and then pretty quickly realized, okay, I will not become proficient until I commit myself to at least putting myself through some version of a, Nachiketa's 10-day Vipassana retreat or whatever. He mentions that. And in fact, I had read I had already read the Vipassana meditation, handbook or whatever, PDF book, ebook, And so then developing those practices and actually doing the practices on a daily basis, for many years, and what I'm realizing is, yeah, it's better than nothing to become aware of that. Okay, I'm now experiencing anxiety. I'm now experiencing, or I was at the time, rather more correctly, I was, because even talking that way, my body will then begin to feel that way to some extent, which is kind of crazy, but it's true. Like now I see, just affirming that, I can see now I need to do a little bit of breath work just to sort of make sure that doesn't stick, right? Make sure it goes away, it doesn't stick around. Just that little bit of energetic form actually changed my physiology. And this gets into, if anybody's ever listened to like an old cassette program, Personal Power with Tony Robbins, well, there's a lot of valuable information in there. It's not to laugh and ridicule and now we're going to make fun of Tony Robbins. It's like, no, it's to take what is valuable to you and leave the rest. So yeah, I've listened to some Tony Robbins cassettes. I didn't, my grandmother or somebody got them at a yard sale, and then eventually I was like, well, shit, I'll listen. Why not? I'll give them a listen. Who cares? And, Tony Robbins talks about just choosing to adopt like overly dominant, confident body language will change your internal state. Like you will then, your body will then begin to identify with that and, will change the physiology on some level. Just like me temporarily in a thought experiment saying I am, it rhetorically saying it, my body's like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, look at what he's affirming. And so ever so slightly, I now feel in those tissues where my body, because of the past repression and trauma and all of this and unresolved emotion, most of which has now been dealt with and cleared, but there's still a little bit in there. And that's where my body obviously tends to put it, right? So now it's not bad, but now I'm actually can see that I'm more in touch with that area and the sensations of that area. So this is meditation, by the way. Meditation is for the novice or the beginner will, if they commit to meditation, it's not the system punks you and says, hey, meditation, you're going to sit cross-legged. And when you're in line at the grocery store, there's a special edition of Time magazine or whatever. And it's got the yoga lady cross-legged, just with the most serene expression possible on her face. Oh, it's not that at all. Absolutely not. It now, arguably, I'm now experiencing some version of that at times. But again, not the predictive programming version, not the version that the system, the delusion, the realm of death and destruction, not what they told me ahead of time it's supposed to look like. You know, my version of that, the real thing, a slogan, Coca-Cola slogan, the genuine article. Shout out to the chat. What's up, Robert Escobar Show? I will say this to Robert, not by way of criticism, but probably something he knows. But since I do have, and this is not because of Robert's physicality, it's because he does at times talk about, engaging in weight loss or, doing things to lose weight. As a person I had an obese BMI, Robert, whether you choose to believe that or not, it really doesn't matter. I was technically obese at a certain point. 40-inch waist, size 40 pants. You've seen me. I'm not the biggest feller in the world. Looking like Humpty Dumpty. So in my weight loss, way back in the day, in my late 20s, which I fucked up. In retrospect, I realized I dropped weight too fast because I'm a maniac, and I tend to I tend to take things to extremes. However, I will say this based on what I seem to believe may be Robert's sleep cycles or sleep hygiene or lack thereof. Proper sleep is one of the hallmarks of being able to, if one is wanting to lose weight. And again, I'm not saying that you need to, or only addressing what I've detected to be you talking about it and, maybe live streaming on. Just think about it, sir. And some people, because of how they earn money and because of how their lives are structured, I think maybe there's a little one involved somewhere. Not everybody has the luxury of more or less going to sleep at the same time every night. So very important, the quality of sleep. And in my experience, more or less going to sleep at the same time every day is a big damn deal. Or it can be. So anyway, there's your unasked for advice, if you're so inclined. And I know you already know this. I mean, there's no way you don't know that. It's more of a friendly reminder, right? Hit that like button, as Robert might remind people. Thank you, sir. Nice to see you as always, rather. Robert is a good dude, without question. That's a good dude right there. And I do hear Robert, I can see, and this is by the way, this is I'll just get off onto some unrelated territories. The spiritual stuff will be there, so my apologies for switching it up a little bit. But I do hear Robert on occasion talking about ladies and females, and perhaps he's dating at times. I never got the full picture, but just so I'm speaking broadly, none of this is advice. This is more of an analysis of what's going on. And I will speak to my own experience. Is my view of a man, and also I will tell the other fellas that I've noticed over time, a lot of fellas when they know a fella, right? For a lot of guys, they are unable to see, there's certain characteristics about this man that a woman would find attractive, right? And a lot of that is because man to man, we don't know we don't know what to look for. We don't, we're not tapped into what a woman would find attractive in a man, right? Now, some of this I've figured out over time by observing women and cohabitating with women for almost 20 consecutive years, right? A lot of I've slept in the same bed with a woman many, 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 many thousands of nights in my life, right? And tens of thousands probably. And then with my second wife, I had begun to understand women to the point of, okay, regardless of how I feel, in order to properly, you know, manage and steer and guide and lead the both of us within the context of this relationship. Because make no mistake, there's always a leader. People can say till they're blue in the face that, oh, it's equal and this and that. No, somebody's in charge. Now, that might be I'm in charge the first half of the day and she's in charge the second half of the day. Make no mistake, somebody in charge at all times, no matter what. So maybe both people are leading. I don't know. I'm not in the lorded over the broads business. And that's dead anyway. That's dead. However, what I recognized so I learned everything I needed to do, I believed I needed to do at the time to have a proper relationship that would suit the both of us when I met what would become my second wife, now my second ex-wife. And then see, immediately, here's what happens. People say, well, how did that work out for you? Like, it failed. It's like, well, it worked out great for me. What do you mean? I'm pretty sure if you go ask her, she'll say it worked out great for her. It's like, do we still need to pretend like everything in this realm is not going to come to pass, right? Do we still need to pretend like that's not the case? Like, yeah, when a person gets into a relationship, that comes with an expiration date. Just look at the psychological attack of this idea of, well, when two people get married, anything short of them, doing some version of a movie, dying hand in hand simultaneously at the age of 90 is a failure. It's like, what, huh? What do you mean? And by the way, I'm a different person. She probably is a different person. Like, I'm no longer the person who's even capable of entering into such an arrangement. Right. But I understood that I must always treat her non-judgmentally based on, so that she will always tell me everything I need to know. Right. And a lot of this is 48 laws of power, Machiavellianism, doing everything in my power it's better for me to have more information as opposed to less. So I know the first time she comes home from work and, somebody hit on her at the gas station and she liked it. And now she wants to share the story with me. The first time I even have a judgmental facial expression towards her, she'll just never, ever tell me anything like that ever again. This is how women are, guys. Now, a woman will hear me say this and will begin to tell me every reason why that's not the case. That's how they are. Forget about what they say, right? Accessing a woman's logic by talking to her and asking her what she thinks she's like, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying real world experience and observing, right? And by watching her and non-judgmentally allowing her to, and she's very flirty, right? Imagine being a man meeting a charming, affable, engaging, flirtatious woman, and then getting into a relationship and getting angry at her for just doing what she was doing when I met her. And by the way, look how many people do versions of that. It's like, I used to just make fun of her and say, you're easy to hit on. Because she was. It's like, yeah, and it would even come up in conversation. I'd be like, yeah, but you're easy to hit on. So like, what's that have to do with anything? But she knew I was right, and it's fine. Like, it's completely fine. So how am I going to take somebody that likes to flirt? Oh, look, here she is flirting again. Like, why would I ever be angry at that? And why would I ever feel insecure about that? Number two, why would I? It's my job to make sure that, because is it possible, fellas, for And again, even a notion of my woman or possession. See, I now look back and it's like, that's not even appropriate. The idea of, possessing another person in that way, even if they seemingly respond favorably as she did to being possessed or controlled in a way. That there are not just females, by the way, there's many people who respond favorably or seemingly respond favorably to such. So through already observing women and already kind of having a hunch. And then part of this I figured out because I recognized that, well, certain women have been attracted to me my whole life. Again, most women have the good sense to take one look at me and they're like, they want nothing to do with me. And I mean that. That is the case. But there is a minority, a small group who really love them some Benton. And, so recognizing, hey, a lot of my male peers they're around me when women aren't around. They have no fucking idea that if a woman comes around, there's a pretty decent chance that the woman is going to respond more favorably to me than to these bozos. And that's okay. And sometimes it's somebody else is there and I get no attention, and that's also fine. But I was never that attached to those notions. I was always kind of like my dad in a way. I was always a little confused, but then eventually, I just accepted, well, okay, that thing is happening again. Some woman has taken, or young gal in the case of my college years, has taken an interest in me, right? So to bring it back to the Robert Escobar thing, a lot of people in the panel verse, he gets made fun of for being a chubby guy or whatever. But it's like, yeah, when I had a 40-inch waist, women still were attracted to me, right? So it's like, yeah, Robert is maybe he wants to lose some weight, but that has nothing to do with how he comes across in the real world, right? And this is men, especially in the era of looks maxing, and this idea that, well, now it's dating apps and nobody, it's more or less impossible to date in a way without having a face that looks a certain type of way, without having a certain, being able to plausibly pass for a certain height on a dating app, right? Because I could put 6 foot if it, for some insane reason I was going to be on a dating app, and just make sure to wear, some taller, not a lift, but some shoes that I know to be a little taller than sneakers or whatever. And they're not going to know the fucking difference. Because I'm 5'10" and a half in fucking no shoes and flat feet. Yeah, not tall, but I'm just not short, right? Yippee skippy yay for Benton. But yeah, I'm just gonna put 5'10" because I can't even put 5'11" because that's not the case. That's not the truth. I'm not 5'11". I'm 5'10", and I don't know that there's a way to put a half. Who even cares about the half? The half is just so that if somebody measures my height, they can't try to say, well, actually, it looks like to me you're almost 5'10", but you're 5'9", and fucking 7/8 or whatever. No, motherfucker, I'm 5'10" and a half. Fuck you. There's no 5'9" here. It's all 5'10", but there's no 5'11" and there's no 6 foot, right? So this is a big part of how men approach this. Is they take one look at Robert Escobar and go, hey, well, he can't be the thing women are after because look at him, right? And no offense, Robert, but obviously that's not a face made for a dating app. Mine was at one time, sure, but I'm not going to lie about my income, so I'm out. I'm not going to lie about my height, so I'm out, right? Just in the olden days, women would find something about the man, to satisfy him, right? Find something. Now it's like, and I'm not complaining. I'm observing and reporting. Now it's the idea of 6 figures, which isn't even 6 figures anymore. Really, we mean $250,000. 6 foot tall and 6-pack abs, which really isn't even what they mean. It's not six pack abs. It's because I've never had six pack abs ever. As lean as I've been at times. Some people it's just almost impossible. It's possible, but it's more difficult, right? Is this my lane ending up here? In a 45-mile-an-hour construction zone? A big rig, a little too bashful and shy to pass me. Because now I might be making him look bad. He'd be going 60 if I wasn't in here going 52. Hell, he'd probably be going 65. Anyway, so that I've developed an ability where I meet Robert Escobar in the flesh for the first time, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like I see the thing. It's there, right? Yes, there's something there that at least some women would be drawn to, and then also how picky or not picky Robert may be will tie in, because some of these guys with the looks maxing and all of this, we used to call a lot of that metrosexual. Like a lot of these aren't men who actually like women. See, if Robert Escobar or Benton, if we actually like women, right? And I do, just for what they are, as annoying as that can be, certainly. But to just like women, generally that kind of guy is not quite as picky, right? Because I'm not into the arm candy aspects. In the case of my second wife, many people considered her to be, especially where we're from in Arkansas, quite attractive, right? At a certain point, she became annoyed because people would decide, when Kanye did this thing about having a woman that looks like Michael Jackson or whatever, people started calling her that. I said, and she was getting angry. I said, listen, it's not an insult. I said, you don't look like Michael Jackson. You look like what Michael Jackson was trying to look like. It's a motherfucking compliment. Like your nose looks like whatever woman he had on the LED billboard in the Billie Jean video. Like that's what your nose looks like. Like when Michael Jackson is going in for nose surgery, he's trying to describe your nose to the surgeon, right? Or he's coming in there with pictures of your nose. That's what they mean, lady. It's a compliment. What are you talking about? A woman with, 7 out of 10 facial features for beauty, even in Los Angeles, right? So that's effectively a 10 in Arkansas. That's a 10 out of 10. And she was treated as such, right? Well, it's still a 7 in my book. Or, close to an 8, right? It's an objective standard, right? And this idea of, a 10, I've seen maybe 110 in my whole life. I saw a blondie in Santa Barbara on State Street who absolutely could have been a famous supermodel that I just don't know who she is. And she was so beautiful, it just like stopped me in my tracks, and like, it's like it hurt to breathe. Right? It's like, whoa, what is that? It's like a whole nother fucking species, right? So yeah, let's just run around and call everything a 10. No, absolutely, that's crazy. Absolutely not. Most of us have never seen one in the flesh. I saw a lady who might have been 18 to 20 on the fucking BART in San Francisco Bay Area, solid 9.5 facially. It was just like, when I first caught sight of her, my first thought was, I have no control over the part where I'm going to look at her several times. I'm going to discipline myself and not just stare at her, because I'm certain she just gets fucking stared at all the time, everywhere she goes. So it's like, I see her, I'm going to look away, and I have no control over the part where I'm going to look back several times, but I'm going to limit it, and I'm going to do it in the least invasive way possible. Just absolutely incredible, right? That's not a normal thing, right? So sort of run around talking as if, oh, look, here's a woman on a dating app, here's a woman on TikTok, and this notion, and some of this trickles down into some of the content that I listen to. And now it's women on a podcast with a man. By the way, why would a man want to do a podcast and talk to a bunch of women? In the context of dating and relationships, yeah, I like women, but that to me makes no sense really. But other than just to make money. But now we got the one stoic guy, right? And then he's going to just like more or less, explain to these three women what they are. And then there's going to be a competition where one of the women is going to understand slightly better than the other women how to sort of re-explain what he's saying in order to kind of curry favor with him, right? How is that interesting? I don't know. But, some of this stuff trickles down to me. And then so at some point they're asking the women to rate themselves. Again, this is just, I would never watch this, but I'm catching like a little bit. Somebody's reacting to this content, right? And oh, is the computer going to let me go 70 now? Or, oh, that's right, I can't go 70. Is the computer going to let me go 65 now or 64? So this stuff trickles down. And so, of course, in typical female fashion, they know objectively where they rate on a 1 to 10. They're only ever going to say 10, and then there's going to be rationalization, and then their gal pals who are present are going to try to back them up, right? But it's like, yeah, there's no, we all know this is hot garbage. Right? This is hot garbage, and it is in a way, it is the plight of the woman. To be a woman, I have a lot of not sympathy but empathy for women, and in genuinely having high regard for women, right? And being able to identify not with their experience, but just with, the story of a particular woman, right? Like in fiction, maybe, again, my favorite show of all time, Mad Men, I believe it to be the greatest TV show ever. And I watched Breaking Bad from when it first debuted on AMC. My buddy found out about it when I still had friends, IRL friends, and he caught the pilot and he was like, "Hey man, you got to watch the show." So I watched it from the very very beginning. Now they're falling in love with my dominant facial features in my mirror as I deliver a discourse. Oh, they just wanted the acknowledgement of the so-called alpha, which I don't believe in those concepts. But as soon as I acknowledged them, then they were happy to pass me. And some of that is just the fear around, oh my God, if this trucker doesn't know I'm there, they might cream me and go into my lane and cause a crash. That's also an element. Don't ever become an lay expert in human psychology. It will ruin your life. But then there's another thing about it, the idea of a 10. Like, fellas, you don't even want whatever that is. Do you really want that? I don't know that I do. That's almost like a Beauty and the Beast. Like if a man has a decent amount of testosterone and is in touch with his own brutal nature in a way, it's like, can I treat that and this is, by the way, to be a man in relationship with a woman, it's always versions of that, right? Like, am I really going to be able to treat this? And in the long run, no, right? No, at some point, I'm going to be yelling at her, or, I can talk about how we almost never fought, me and ex-wife number two. But yeah, I mean, there was times it was quite limited, but, I was rude and ugly to her at times. She was rude and ugly to me at times. Way less than prior relationships, but it still happened. And more in my advanced age, and I've chosen to retire from all of this because there I was yesterday in the truck stop, just wandered in to wash my hands and then rinse out my eyeballs, and at a certain point I'm just kind of standing off to the side because for some reason, if I stand anywhere near anything that I could plausibly be in line for, everybody wants to assume I'm in line. So I noticed just physically position myself somewhere where nobody can try to talk to me or whatever. Because I just want to watch what's happening briefly. I'm sort of just taking the pulse of the environment. And then the two gals in their 20s, checking me out. And, but, what is that? What is that? That's two women who want to he about something involving a man, right? And they're already in that mode. And then it's a truck stop, so virtually every male in there is either not a man and is also does not have an attractive face, right? And by the way, what's considered attractive to a woman? Well, I can't speak for them, but the men who are considered the most attractive generally have a mixture of male and female traits. So if you ask a man what they think, they're going to go towards dominance and masculinity. It's like, yeah, there's probably a man or two in here that would fit the bill, but their face, they're too masculine at the level of their face, right? These broads, they're wanting to he at something that's got a little bit of a pretty boy aspect to it, right? A little bit of a soft touch, perhaps, right? Yeah, as much as they certainly enjoy being ravaged from time to time, I'm sure, right? Maybe this ain't the time or the mood for that. So there they are, and we have, I watch them check me out, and then, sadly for them, there's really no, one of them was cute, but in me, and again, I know women in a way. Like immediately, I detected the devilish nature, right? The reminded me of one of my favorite ladies from film, that Farutza Balk or whatever, if I'm saying her name right, from American History X. There was a bit of that sort of demonic, grinning at me, right? It's like, oh man, I know what that is. Yeah, one of the best lays of my life, but then, also the tires are going to get slashed at some point. I've never had my tires slashed, but, I know that when I see it. And then the other one was just not my type. Not that I have a type, but, and by the way, as a human, understanding that experience for them and that experience for me is encapsulated in that moment. It's not to be attached to. It's not to, oh, now I'm going to, next time I go to a truck stop and they start looking at me some type of way. The pickup artist would tell you, oh, you got to be ready. In the old days, it would be to be ready with my pen and paper and go get her number and all of this. And yeah, I used to do that. I taught myself how to do all of that. In fact, I taught other people how to do it at times. And then it's like learning the rules to be able to break the rules. So it's eventually realizing how ridiculous all of that is. I actually carried a fucking notepad and a pen and used to hand them to a woman and instruct her to write her number down, and had counter strategies to overcome her resistance in the moment. Like, it's ridiculous. But by the way, folks, before social media, before cell phones, and before texting, like, this was what it took to get 10 phone numbers to be able to get one broad to show up for a date. And this is what, before the rise of social media, before TikTok, before the internet began to teach everybody all of this, this was unknown. This is what Benton sought out and became expert in back in, I don't know, 2006 or so, right? I was at the level of being able to teach all of this by the time the financial crisis started. And I mean, literally, like, where people would pay me money, at times. Again, it was never something I sought out to make money from. It was like eventually finding, a person on a message board. It was like, hey, man, I know exactly what the fuck is wrong with you. Pay me some money. I'll get on a call with you and I'll just tell you that all these broads, you're mad at the women because they're in the line in front of you at Target, and her man is an alcoholic wearing a literal wife beater who's probably beating her. You're mad at her thinking she's picking wrong. And I said, actually, you're the reason why she's with that guy. She would rather be with you, except you are putting her on a pedestal. You are so much of a nice guy, you're simply not an option for her. You got to be just enough of a jerk in a way, not a jerk to her, but you're going to have to learn to do things that you consider to be what a jerk would do, just to be an option for her. Because, like it or not, Women require a minimum level of abuse, fellas. I didn't make it that way. Don't kill the messenger. What I'm telling you is if a man, when a woman meets a man, she knows whether or not he's got it in him to say, hey, listen, bitch, get your shit together, right? Because when the shit hits the fan and it's panic time and the barbarians are coming over the fucking hillside, she might go to freaking out. Whatever man is nearest to her needs to be able to grab a hold to her and say, listen, bitch, chill your shit out. Save that for later. We got business. We got to get this. We got to get, and by the way, I'm finna go handle this. I got this. Chill the fuck out because I can't go defeat these barbarians while with you screeching in my ear, right? And if a fella don't have that in him, well, a fella does have that in him. If a fella's not in touch with whatever that is, she knows it from day one, right? So here I am, and the guy's paying me $40 for me to either record a podcast where I directly tell him all of this, or to just, hey man, shut the fuck up and listen to this. And I just tell him, you're the problem, buddy, and explain to him how all of this works, meaning I understand you want to be nice to the women. They don't know what to do with it because they know deep down she knows she ain't shit. So when you come along and treat her like her shit don't stink, she's suspicious because she's like, what's wrong with this guy? Because I know deep down I'm not shit. Why is he treating me like my shit doesn't stink? It's incongruous, right? And my famous example is when I worked at Outback Steakhouse, I moved for a few months to Florida and moved in with a friend of mine and was going to attempt to live there. And this was at the peak of my magnification of my physical attractiveness. You know, I'd muscled myself up. I had a certain type of hair. You know, it was just maximum, like, look at me, look at me. You know, I was like 35 or whatever. You know, my actual physical attractiveness peak was around 40 to 42, by the way, if anybody's curious. Either way, I was, you know, I was coming into that peak, right? The peak of my powers. And I worked with this gal that I found quite attractive based on her body. And she never gave me the time of day, guys. And remember, I was being very flirtatious. I knew how to flirt. I was good at it. I was good at a back and forth, a witty repartee. I had really facilitated and worked on all of these aspects for myself. So much so that at the previous Outback that I then went back, when I moved back to Arkansas, I worked there. One time I was working in the bar area and a woman came in and grabbed my ass. And I immediately said, hey, I charge $10 for that. So, you know, I was ready. Like I was ready with the fucking quips. I was ready with the back and forth, right? I was on it. Okay. I was on top of it. And we were at the bar waiting for the bartender to make our drinks because we were servers. And she was eating the olives off the bar. And she was thick, man, but she was thick in all the right places. She had a nice figure. This was West Palm Beach, Florida, by the way. A lot of attractive women. A lot of attractive young women. Many, many attractive young women. You know, the stereotype of a man making a fist and then just like biting into his knuckles because some hot broad, he's looking at a hot broad. I went out on the Intercoastal Waterway on some guy's boat, and some of those chicks that work there in bikinis, man, little like scrawny athletic broads, but just gorgeous figures. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, good Lord, get me off this boat. You know, because I wasn't what they were looking for. You know, which is fine, but it's like, man, I'm trying not to stare, but this is tough, man. What are y'all doing to me? And so we're at the bar with this thick girl with the nice figure, and she said to me, if I keep eating these olives, I'm gonna be fat. I looked at her and said, gonna be, and just made like a particular Larry Benton face, like, are you crazy? From that day, fellas, the bitch shield, because I know that the pickup artist lingo has entered the lexicon. It completely dissolved her bitch shield from that day forward. We were completely cool with each other. She was a fucking bitch to me before that. So now she realized, oh, yeah, he still wants to fuck me, but he's gonna just treat me like a regular human being also. A human being that also wants to bang me. And then maybe she wanted to bang me too. Who knows? Right. It's possible. Oftentimes the if it's a healthy attraction, oftentimes the women we're the most attracted to also are attracted to us. It doesn't typically work both ways, fellas. Right. Yeah, bitch shield. Sorry, Robert, that was my accent. Shield. The bitch shield. Right. And the bitch shield is, for example, let's say there's a woman who only dates black guys. And let's say I'm in line at the store and she's laughing and smiling because she's flirting with a black dude. And then he leaves and I walk up to the counter and her face immediately goes stonewall to look at me. That's the bitch shield, right? Or more correctly, that's the resting bitch face. But it's like a spiritual version of that, right? It's like we're closed for business for you, sir. Even though I was just open for business, or she was just open for business for this other fella 5 seconds ago, right? Same person, right? Which is the realm will try to gaslight us and say, oh, well, Benton, because you behave a certain type of way, you're now beholden to behaving that way in all scenarios. No, I'm not. I'm free to treat one person one way and then treat somebody else a different way, or I'm free to treat a person a certain way based on how they're behaving, and then I'm able to treat them a different way if they behave differently. I don't have to treat them the same all the time, right? That's gaslighting. That's manipulation. That's manipulation. Yeah, the bitch shield. It completely dissolved her bitch shield just by saying gonna be, because yeah, she knew she had a few extra pounds, right? And the guys her age in South Florida, for her to compete for Chad, right? She was like 25. If she's trying to date 25 or 30-year-old Chad, six figure, you know, Miami Chad or whatever, she knows she's competing with broads that are generally in better shape than her, but she had a nice figure. She looked good with a few extra pounds. She could drop 20 pounds and she would still look good, right? And by the way, Benton, mid 30s, I've noticed as I got older, I began to, the size of the women I began to find attractive. So when I was 18, no women with extra weight on them were attractive. And then as I got older, you know, that began to change. But still can't deal with the gut. Can't do the gut. We got to have a flat stomach. But I'm retired anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Right. Which in a way, I'm free to sort of just be around women and flirt and do all of this, and just it's neither here nor there because I'm even if I'm interested, I'm still not interested. As I like to say, or it got so creepy and weird for me in the Hope, Arkansas Super Center when all these broads were after me. So much so that a Gen Z chick in yoga pants, but in Southern style, you couldn't see her ass, which is fine. I wasn't trying to check her out. She had the long shirt over it or whatever, more like leggings in that case. But I shit you not, sidled up to me in the egg aisle and started talking to me, and her fella was right there pushing the shopping cart. I said, "What is this?" I should have just asked her, like, "Is your fella he's just gonna stand there and watch this, or what is this? What are you doing? Right? What is this?" And that brings to mind certain terminologies that I'm not even going to get into, but oh well, he wanted this, and look, I don't care what it's not my concern what he would want or not want. That's neither here nor there. I'm not. That's irrelevant. It's just like This is where society is, because why? Because feminism is for him to not allow her to express as she sees fit. And I can feel a little bit of anger, but I'm not angry about this. I'm sort of angry on your behalf as a listener. This is how things are. See, feminism functions that in order for him to date her, and he's 20 something and she's 20 something, he's been socialized where he has to interact with her, which is in that he can't ever do anything to where she can say, oh, well, you're just being insecure. So he knows that if he in any way negatively refers to her sidling up to me at the fucking egg aisle while he stands over there looking like a bozo, all she's got to say is stop being insecure, right? And now he's shamed further, right? But actually, it's offensive to me culturally, because I'll tell you why. Because I was born in a time warp in Southeast Arkansas. We used to say we were 10 years behind California. We were 20 minimum. But see, where I'm from, if I'm going to talk to a fella's woman and I know that she's got a man, I got to do some version of basically like, where is your man? Or like, if he's physically present, I got to go talk to him first. And that's all predicated on this Southern culture of honor, which is like, he might kick my ass, right? Or I might have to fist fight this motherfucker just because I'm talking to his girl, right? And it's also a respect thing. It's like, yeah, culturally, I don't have no problem. Anybody can talk. When I was with ex-wife number 2 or number 1, yeah, I don't care. Come talk to my woman all day. I don't give a fuck. But don't disrespect me. Again, this is all dead, right? I'm not this way anymore, but it's also a version of, don't disrespect me by just pretending like I don't exist. But then for the woman, it's kind of the same thing. Like, now, in a way, you're disrespecting me, Gen Z, because you don't understand that I come from a culture where this is uncomfortable for me because I see your fella over there. And back in my day, that could have been somebody that's going to wander over here and punch me in the face. Like, now I see that's probably not the case, but even still, right? Like, what is this, right? But then also understanding psychologically and sociologically in the moment, like, oh, this is just normal now. If she wants to go talk to an attractive guy right in front of her boyfriend or her, hell, they might have been married for all I know. That's just how it is. And he knows to put up with it, right? But by the way, this is part of the reason I'm retired from dating and relationships. I would not put up with that for half a second as my voice cracks ridiculously, right? Meaning, but then now we get into the manipulative aspects of dominance versus submission, and this idea of the submissive partner manipulating and controlling, but like in a judo fashion from the bottom, which is, if my woman knows that I need to be treated that way, she can still get her way, just making sure to only ever plays, right? So actually, that is the argument for me. Just if I was foolish enough to, and I'm not, but it's not completely up to me though. But if I was foolish enough to ever go back to dating and relationships, and it wouldn't be dating. I mean, I know exactly what it would be, which is probably good that it's not going to happen. But it would be like a biblical version of marriage, which that's not going to be good for her, right? I'm not trying to subjugate the females. But it's like, yeah, I'm just not willing to put up with that. So what that means is that's never been my experience, because the women who have gotten into relationships with me, they know they can't behave that way in front of me, or they run the risk of me just saying, well, fuck you, I'm out. And they also probably know I always had some version of side piece. There was never not some woman lurking in the shadows, sort of letting me backburner her or backburnering herself to try to slide in. Because the fact is, fellas, just the fact that I start a new job back in the day, and the women that work on that job, they just know, oh, he's probably got a girlfriend. And the next thing you know, the word gets out. And solely based on the fact that at least one woman will have me. For women, that's some verification that, well, he hasn't, presumably, he's not treated her in ways to be cast into prison or whatever. He's probably not some version of Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, which wasn't even a movie yet. But it's probably a book, though. Shout out to Bret Easton Ellis, the author of American Psycho, the only actual Gen Xer, according to the media, right? That's the only person who's able to actually be the Gen X spokesperson. Right? Every time Gen X needs to be referenced, let's trot out. Let's go interview Bret Easton Ellis, right? I'm from Arkansas, sir. How dare you? Robert wanting to make fun of my Alabama accent. Well, sir, since I've had the pleasure of spending time in your town, I understand why it probably seems like an Alabama accent, because somebody from Southern California, I mean, is there actually any difference between Mississippi, Arkansas, and Alabama? No, there's not. There's effectively no difference. Just like when Snyder National used to send me to Jersey City, New Jersey. Yeah, that is New York City as far as an Arkansas boy is concerned. It's like, yeah, I understand that y'all call it New Jersey. I can see Manhattan from where I'm standing. Therefore, this is New York City. Get a rope, motherfucker. Meaning from the Pace Picante commercial. Don't try to tell me it's not New York City. I can see Manhattan. So, yeah, don't try to tell Robert Escobar that I don't have an Alabama accent. He's listening to it. Same motherfucking thing. Right. Same motherfucking thing. And, I'm supposed to have a ridiculous accent. It's part of the package. It's part of my preaching, because what y'all don't know is, believe it or not, compared to my Arkansas peers, I went off to college and really did not have much of an accent. It developed later somehow. I suspect I know how it happened, but I think I picked it up phonetically by living in a different area than where I grew up, but also within Arkansas. Phonetically. And it's fun talking about a lot of these male-female dating and relationship and romance topics, but as a particular, and then some of my own repressed trauma maybe is seeing the time to escape. It's like, oh, okay, well, he's interfacing with certain energies. Let's go ahead and get up out of here. So I'm feeling a little bit of tension in my body, but it's not bad, right? Some of that is the stagnated, repressed energies seeing the exit, right? Getting up out of here. Give me just a moment while we stretch a little bit and help them on their way. What a blessing. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get up out of here. This is not their home. And, a big part of all this mastering and learning all of this, stuff about dating and relationships, a lot of that is what the males don't seem to realize, because the male, a big part of how a male views himself is how women view him, right? And in fact, a lot of times I'll meet a particular fella, and then it's like, let's use Drew or EBT or Toilet Bowl Earth for an example. Well, I know there has to be something of substance to these fellas, because they have a certain quality of woman in their life. So, whether or not I'm getting along with them at a particular point in time, and mostly getting along, maybe one of the three, not so much these days, but either way, and that's okay. I must recognize on some level, well, there has to be something there, or this quality of woman could not be present. Right? And a lot of men just simply don't realize those dynamics and want to go into jealousy, which is, what is the jealousy? The jealousy is The jealousy is to identify with a lack of, well, that guy has something that I think I want. Meanwhile, are you sure you want that? Because it's not all sunshine and motherfucking roses. You know, it comes with a lot of things that we might not want to put up with, fellas. Part of the package, right? Come on, super trucker. I know you got what it takes to pass me in this moment. I know you're not creeping up on me. Are you creeping on me, super trucker? Super trucker's creepy, by the way. If y'all ever want to know, oh, keep America moving and this cultural notion of truckers and super truckers. Super trucker's a motherfucking creep. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, he's fucking creepy across the board. I'm not down with that, whatever that is. Not a fan. Super truckers are creep. Oh shit. We spilled the coffee. Motherfucker. The coffee cup went into the cup holder on top of, now making sure nothing important is wet, on top of the cable to charge the phone. And as I yanked on the cable to free it from whatever was obstructing it so that I could plug it into the phone, it dislodged and overturned the coffee mug. I don't think too much of it spilled, a little bit, not too much. Let's see. Yeah, some. So let's move everything out of the way that might get damaged as a result. Oh, yeah, here they come on the slow merge. I see them. Here we come slow merging. And just again, to be reminded, this is what the people are. Hauling maximum ass up an on-ramp and then slowing it the fuck down when they hit the merge area. Got to get on that slow merge and then blasting off to the 75 miles an hour they're going to go. It's like, okay, why the slow merge then? Why are we slow merging? What is this? And I now know everything I need to know about those people. Right? They know not what they do, so I guess I better forgive them. What I am can only forgive them, or forgive them rather, more correctly. So back to where I started all of this talking about broads. A fella needs to understand, in my opinion, that when he chooses to go into some version of a committed relationship with a woman, he's accepting a leadership role in managing all of these dynamics. And by the way, she's going to resist and oppose him every motherfucking step of the way. So does a fella really want to go into that at this point, Robert Escobar? Right? How strong is your pimp hand? Well, it's probably fairly strong, right? Game recognized game. Mine was quite strong. I actually considered, this is going to sound insane, but I actually considered becoming a white pimp. I'm not even kidding. That's how strong my game was. It was like, well, shit. And before OF OnlyFans, I already understood and was willing to accept, oh, well, half these broads are some version of a hooker anyway. And in fact, when a fella gets to a certain level of being able to experience women and, likes his women a little on the trashy side, as I do, they call each other hooker half the time. Hey, hooker, that means something. That's not just a joke. Yeah, it's a joke, right? But it's also not a joke. It's like, ha ha, funny, ha ha. Yeah, except for, one of these bozos just paid my rent. So it's like, yeah, funny, not funny. And then, so by the time I ended up with ex-wife number 2, it was some version of an unsaid, unspoken thing of like, yeah, do whatever you're going to do. But number 1, don't let me find out about it. Number 2, and again, can't ever say this, but number 2, don't make me look like a fucking asshole. Right. Just don't make me out to be the asshole. I don't really give a fuck. I don't want to go off to the clinic. Number 1, I don't want to have to go seek medical advice because my nether regions are having problems. And then number two, I just leave me out of it, whatever it is. Like who cares? Do whatever you're going to do. Which, by the way, is also, if a woman is really, really, really into her man and has a high level of attraction, is she really willing to risk regularly engaging in behaviors that would, if I found out, I might be like, well, fuck you, I'm out. And by the way, she knows I've got versions of backburnered broads at all times. Of course she does. She's not dumb. And by the way, fellas assume, oh, if I get caught cheating, my woman's going to leave me. What happens for a woman is her competition kicks in, because she goes, oh, hell no, why should that broad get my man? She knows if she leaves because he cheated, now the other broad has unfettered access to her man. If he's worth having, hell no, we're not putting up with that. Are you kidding me? Why should she get my man? And simultaneously, getting to lord it over, if that man will allow it, right? If that man will allow it, And again, if I'm dumb enough to cheat, it's my job not to get caught, right? And I said it, dumb enough to cheat. Meanwhile, as a grown-ass man, why did I ever put myself in a position where that's even a thing? See, that was the mistake. It's like, yeah, what the fuck? Why would I put myself in that position? But here's what biblical marriage is. Biblical marriage is the women are all either married with husbands or they're virgins, and there's no middle ground. See, now we're back to everything, all our thoughts and all our actions serve one of two masters, and there's no middle ground. So if we look at dating and relationships and female behavior, Moloch's machine has created a middle ground of, oh, well, we're just, women, we're liberated. It's a libertine age. We're dating. We're mimicking male sexual behavior. But by the way, in the olden times, in Bible times, if a woman attempted to mimic male sexual behavior, it was a literal death penalty, put to death by throwing rocks at her head until she died. Now, I don't know if that ever actually happened or not. I don't fucking know. Probably. Probably. So here would be the idea of Benton taking a wife. In the olden days was, hey, here's a virgin. Hey, she will let me fuck her. Hey, I just fucked her. That's my wife. Like literally. And that's, by the way, multiple wives. Oh, look, here's another virgin. Oh, look, she let me fuck her. Oh, look, a second wife. And that's what the Christians don't want to face that. And then, oh, look, my one of my wives got, plausibly caught cheating. We don't do anything to the guy that banged her, but now it's she's dead, right? And again, I wasn't there. I don't know if any of this happened or not. I got to think that what if I really liked that particular wife? It's like, am I just going to allow her to get? Am I going to participate in throwing rocks at her head until she's dead? I don't know. It's sounding a little far-fetched to me. So was that ever even real? I don't fucking know. Maybe. Why is everybody riding me, by the way? Now I'm looking, it's just, I can't even get up to speed because every car is trying to just ride me. Like, why? I'm going 50 motherfucking 9. Why are people trying to ride me? I don't get it. What is happening? It's very strange. Can I just speed up to 65 and be left the fuck alone? It's a 70 zone. Good God. What are we doing? That's dead, though. And I think I can't say for sure, but I want to just start telling the company, just, hey, I'm living in a truck. I don't know what to tell you. It's like, you legally, y'all have to pay me, but I'm living in a truck. And then, I will, when it suits my schedule, I will drive it where you want me to and pick up a load and drop a load. But whatever, when I'm done for the day, I'm done for the motherfucker day. And if my clock says I got 2.5 hours of drive time left and it's 3 p.m. and I feel like shot, I'm done. We're done for the day. That's dead, homie. I know the company would prefer that I, only had 100 miles to go to the delivery when I started my day, but that doesn't work for me. And if it doesn't work for me, I'm not doing it. But not in an indignant, I need them to sign off on it way, meaning they're just going to learn eventually, oh, he has however many hours on his clock, but once 3 to 4 p.m. rolls around, he's probably shutting it down. So I'm going to learn them, come what may, right? Anything short of them saying, look, you must go and do this, or we're not going to be able to do what we need to do as a company. But anyway, so are there virgins, right? And again, I'm retired, but when I talk about that, it's not completely up to me, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Is there even an 18-year-old virgin? Number one. Number two, I'm not interested in 18-year-olds, like, legitimately. They're not even going to catch my attention until they're at least 25, minimum, right? Minimum. And, I need to be able to have a conversation. I can't talk to them about what their phone is doing. Even with a 25-year-old, there's going to be some version of that. Certainly not an 18-year-old. Be teeny bopper, right? So it's like, this is already effectively impossible if my standard for marriage is biblical marriage. Well, there's no virgins, so I mean, what are we even talking about? What are we talking about? There are no virgins. I'm talking intact hymen, actual fucking, physiological definition of virginity here. I don't know that I've got relatives that are going to want to see the marital bed sheets necessarily and look for the blood, but it's metaphorically going to be some version of that if there's ever going to be a third Mrs. Benton, right? And hopefully there won't be. And then part of, males that don't do very good with women, the male who doesn't do good with women will recoil in horror just based on me talking this way. I'm like, no, I'll talk this way right in front of them. What are you talking about? Like, actually, when at a certain point, I left for California and I had done these podcasts. In fact, my first podcast that I ever published. What the fuck? Hang on, I'm getting texts here. What does that even mean? What are my benefits? Cash App is telling me my benefits have been renewed. I don't even know what that means. Maybe they mean based on my direct deposit, probably, whatever I'm entitled to. They always want to get me to borrow money so they can charge me fees. But I left for Cali, and she listened to my podcast because she missed me. And my podcast was just me talking about all of these ideas, but in a more structured, speaking from an outline way, right? And so as males, we have this idea that, well, if I speak certain logical truths, right, that's going to be a turnoff. Absolutely not. She just feels however she feels, right? And when it comes to dating and relationships, nothing will ever be as important to her other than perhaps her children, perhaps, as how she feels. It was all about how she felt about, I was there, now I'm gone, now she's missing me, and then she's going on my computer and listening to my podcast. I didn't know that, but she told me that when I came back, right, upon my return. And my podcast was more or less me talking the way I'm talking right now, right? So a man might assume, or a male will assume, oh, you can't talk this way around them. Oh, yeah, absolutely you can. Now they might have their own little cute retort or whatever, and they might tell you how and why you're wrong. But this idea that they're delicate creatures and we're gonna break them. It's like, I don't know. Try as hard as you want to in the bedroom. Good luck with that. Try as you might. I don't think you're gonna be able to, partner. And then another thing about being a man that has a certain understanding of women, a lot of this Karen behavior, stereotypical Karen behavior, not all of it, some of it's just straight up mental illness, but some of this, when a broad really gets worked up and starts tripping and a certain type of energy, some of that is just somebody needs to put it on her, and something needs to get rearranged in the nether regions, and then she'll be fine, right? It's like, and if that's not occurring on a regular basis, there is more of a propensity to start wigging the fuck out, right? It's like, yeah, somebody needs to rearrange this broad's innards, and then she'll be fine, right? But there's not enough of those fellas to go around. So this is what we see through not necessarily the dating apps, but these women who are trying to meet, they're trying to get into a relationship with a Giga Chad with a $250,000 minimum salary, while he's simultaneously starting a company that he's going to try to sell for however much money, right? And all of this, and to become actually wealthy. And then she also is trying to find a 6'4" version of that with broad shoulders. And because, by the way, fellas, there are 6'3" guys that women are not attracted to. So even something like shoulder to waist ratio is a big deal, right? Which I don't have. But by the way, I have more of it when I'm thinner than when I'm bigger, right? It's not like my shoulders were comparatively larger when when I was 190 pounds of muscle with a 34-inch waist. You know, in some ways, I'm actually better off if I'm a buck 30, because it at least looks like I might have, with the little bitty waist, I might have a little bit of a shoulder to me, even though I don't, comparatively. By the way, every single time I've seen a particular type of little fella, they've always had if anytime their woman's been present, always been a bombshell, what people would call a dime piece, although not an actual 10, but something that physically has all the hallmarks of a dime piece. Guess who always has a woman like that? A motherfucking jockey. Yeah. Who's, by the way, almost always broad shouldered compared to their waist, even though they're tiny little fellas. Right. Used to, on occasion, wait on a jockey. Right. High testosterone. That's one of the most high testosterone endeavors there is, by the way. Motherfucking horse racing. Taming those beasts. So yeah, they got hot women, even though, yeah, he's 5'2". Yeah, and she's fucking 6 foot, because what's the difference to him? Right. What's the difference if he's fucking 5'2"? Do you think it's any difference to him if she's 5'7" or if she's 6 foot? Who cares at that point? She's most assuredly taller than him. Right. And then from her perspective, well, if he can climb up on that beast, I guess he can climb up on me too, right? So what males will do is say they will take one characteristic and then look at it in a vacuum. Oh, I have to be tall. No, you don't. No, you do not. Because I'll find a 5'2" jockey with a dime piece. So what now, motherfucker? Oh well, he's rich. Well, not really. He makes a good living if he's a good jockey. So probably the winning jockeys have hotter broads than the jockeys who don't win a lot of races, right? And then the jockeys who win a lot of races will make more money, right? It's a competition. But we can't just in a vac. And by the way, that would have to work both ways. It's like, okay, well, If 5'2" jockeys do good with women, we can't just say, "Oh, I have to be 6 foot or above." No, you don't. What are you talking about? You know. In fact, wasn't that the entire premise of the movie Seabiscuit or whatever? That the Toby Maguire was technically too big to be a jockey or whatever. I've fallen in love with my trailer again. I'm in love with a trailer. They're in love with the trailer back there. I look in my mirror and there's just lights. Fall in love with these tail lights, bitch. Oh, you don't love them tail lights, do you? They got a big old middle finger in the side mirror. Because that's bullshit. That's bullshit to bury themselves and hide behind me. It's fucking bullshit. Now they're trying to save face by pretending to go slow. Y'all weren't going slow. You fell in love with the ass end of this trailer. And they were wanted to look at their screen and giggle at their feet and use me as a way to do that. That's bullshit. But yeah, save that face and pretend like y'all were going slow. No, you weren't. As you weave back and forth because you're trying to look at your phone. Not you, but them, of course. I'll just go 60 until they get the fuck away from me. That's creepy, and that's creep energy. And creep energy is always repellent. Always. Because the traffic is just, you know, get on by, little doggies. Go find somebody else to ride. This ain't your horse. Pardon me, we're eating the chocolate. See, did we get paid? Let me look it up here on my app. Yep, we got paid. We got paid. Shit. Oh man, broken tooth, man. Sometimes there's like something crunchy in the 100% cocoa chocolate bar, which makes me think it's not 100%. But so on the side of my mouth that doesn't have the broken tooth, sometimes I'll crunch into whatever that is. But then I crunch down on whatever that was on the side with the broken tooth, so it always makes me paranoid that did I break off more of the broken tooth? I don't know, maybe. Can't really tell. All right, just a moment. Got to rinse out the old mouth here real quick, like. By the way, dark chocolate, good for your teeth. I don't know if y'all know that. Yeah, I think I broke off more of the tooth there, maybe. It's hard to tell, though. I need to examine it with my finger. I don't know. I can't even tell anymore, but think so. Hard to say, perhaps. The iodine I put on it every day seems to at least keep it from hurting. So, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard to. I think maybe I did. I don't know, man. Who the fuck knows? And in my opinion, a lot of people the so-called red pill manosphere, and it's this idea that it's women are the source of the problem. Women are not the problem, fellas. Fellas are the problem. The solution, and again, it's a delusion. It's a realm of death and destruction and delusion. But the solution is to just let women do everything. Just stop pouring the concrete, stop building the buildings, stop fixing the roads. But American society and culture is not capable of staying home unless Moloch's machine tells them to stay home, right? Like we saw in the fake pandemic. And then, we do have a certain portion of several generations of young males, right? Even my generation had, even Gen X had versions of just, failure to launch young males who never quite, made it into, regular employment, meaning they were never actually employable, day in and day out for a period of years, right? Which I would say on some level is part of being a man, is at least to prove that one has that capability, right? Whether or not one, you know, chooses to live that way or not. At least doing that long enough to know, I know what I'm made of at the level of being able to show up and get a job done. Um, and then it's the idea I've talked about before of let the lefties pour the concrete. And I had this epiphany. I was physically viewing in Texas, the state was rebuilding, a huge section of interstate or whatever. And I was walking like across the overpass, staying in a motel in Waxahachie, Texas. And I still drank back then. So I was, walking over to probably buy a beer or whatever. And it struck me, and there was a lot of things going on politically and the fake pandemic and all this. It was the idea of these blue haired, these gender studies type of people, that really the answer is to what they're trying to do. And this idea that, it did seem at that time that that viewpoint was, it was sort of the drag queen story hour, trans rights and all of this stuff was sort of taking over in a way culturally, right? And my thing was like, it struck me in that moment. The solution to this is to just everybody who would show up and pour concrete and build a road, just stay the fuck home long enough that now I'm walking across the overpass and it's gender studies people out there and trans people trying to build the motherfucking road. Like literally, like that's the solution, fellas, is yeah, women are now part of Moloch's machine is all of this uptake of programming around, we're empowered, we're independent, and all of this. That's all fully normalized. So, fellas, back away from your job, back away from, man shit when it comes to working a job and wait long enough that women actually start to do those jobs, which will happen. And in fact, there are women diesel mechanics. There's pretty much always been women truck drivers, as far as I can tell. But truck driving, not that manly of a job overall. Let's just be clear. It's really not. When I think about doing some man shit, I don't think about I'm going to go drive a truck. It's really not that. There's elements from time to time, but not really here and there. And so back away. And again, I'm not advocating for this. I'm saying fellas don't understand strategically that women deep down know that if men were to go hands off and back away, they know they can't get the job done. Right? They know that. They know that if it was women and gender studies people and trans people out there trying to build the motherfucking interstate, the motherfucking interstate wouldn't get built. Or if it did, it ain't going to be safe to drive on. They know that deep down. 100%. Here they come on the slow merge. Here we come slow merging. Well, what do you do when I'm already going slow and I go slower? Now now I've taken away your slow merger move. What now? Maybe just go ahead and go whatever speed you're going to go anyway. Creeping on the slow merge. Oh, but that's a big rig going 48. So wait a minute, wrong strategy. Turns out slow merge is not it's not a tool that works in every situation. There's some times when we need to actually go fast. Oh, look, that sign says 70. Maybe don't try to go slower than the slow truck in order to merge onto an interstate. That's the people, by the way. The people are the same people who are trying to have a slow driving contest with an 18-wheeler who's already was going 55, right? Oh, let's try to go. Let's get into a slow driving contest with that. That's the same people. They're not capable of staying the fuck home long enough. It's like, okay, women, you're strong, you're independent. Have at it. Go build the office building. Go build the roads. Go fix the car. Go do the plumbing. Go be electrician. You know, go for it. But that's not possible because men who are capable and able to show up and do those jobs in exchange for Federal Reserve notes, what do the Federal Reserve notes represent? They represent units of what? Worship. The national religion is consumerism. It's not, we're not able as Americans to worship the God of consumerism without access to units of worship. Federal Reserve notes are required. Right? They're required. And that's the aspect of Moloch's machine that prevents problem solving. Right. So I'm proffering a potential solution that absolutely would work, because at that point, women would then choose to identify, most likely, not with their programming as much, although it would still be present to some extent, and it would still be present in a certain context, right? Because temporarily, your more butch lesbians would fill some of that gap, but there's probably not enough to go around. By the way, some of these younger females are on testosterone, so they would at least, in their testosteronized state, say, "Yeah, I'll go out and work on a road crew. Who cares?" Right? Some of them will do that. Right? Some of them will be biological females who decided they're trans or whatever. Right? Perhaps the more autistic of the bunch, perhaps, because we're told that autistic people and people who are more neurodivergent are more likely, especially females, by the way, are more likely to choose to identify as trans. Right? Yeah, and I said choose. Meanwhile, I might be the only person on here. I've had multiple IRL trans friends, by the way. Multiple. And people are people as far as I'm concerned. If they can put up with my at times ignorant, discourses, then I'm willing to tolerate whatever they got going on. I'm not going to feed the delusion, of course. But, yeah. Somebody just blasted by. Probably the first person I've seen going, I don't know, $120 maybe. Well over a hundo for sure. Somebody else several seconds later came by going closer to 100 than 120 or 130. Whatever that is. And I do need to decide. So at this point, lacking the knowledge of the place I'm made to deliver this load. So when the company sends me my work order for today, it's some of it's predicated on, after dropping your loaded trailer at the receiver, then hook up to an empty trailer. But when I look at the location on the map on the satellite view, to me it just looks like a drop yard, to where it's literally a house. Like it's in an area that's rural enough, or LARPing is rural, where it's mixed residential and industrial. It's zoned for both. So there's there's a towing company or two on that highway in that area, but there's also like literal fucking houses. So then I'm looking at a building that was initially a house, but might now be a business. There's no way to tell. Now I could have attempted to call them yesterday, but then I'm just hesitant to ever make phone calls in that context, because with my autism, my undiagnosed fake autism, it's hard for me to know that it could be just completely inappropriate for me to call these people. It might actually be more harm than good in a way, based on whatever the company's up to. I'm probably better off not doing that. And so I might be free to just drive right in there at 5:38 a.m. in the pitch black and just drop my trailer. But then it's like, what do I do with the bills of lading? Because is this property that where the company says, or am I supposed to, but my company's telling me to go to this drop yard. And is that that a drop yard that my company is paying money to have access to? Or is that the property of the company who's ordered the load, right? And why is this a mystery? But then apparently the bills of lading says that this load is for a company who has a distribution center in the area. So why am I not delivering to the distribution center? And am I supposed to go to the distribution center, give them the bills of lading, and then they say, okay, here's where you go drop the trailer, right? Or, hey, drop it here, and then your empty trailer is at this other place. And by the way, in an information age, why is this all a fucking mystery? Right. Now, part of this is the trucking company likes to keep the driver strategically in the dark some of the time. Yeah, I understand that. And I have my own versions of that, perhaps at times. They have the advantage having me under surveillance, and I don't have them under surveillance. Why is this car blasted by me and now they're going slow as fuck in front of me? This is strange. I don't know what this is all about. Maybe they don't know that they're going up a hill now. They don't know to press on the accelerator harder, perhaps. What was I rambling about? Oh, yeah. Why is this not all? Because since I prefer to work early in the morning as much as possible, the fact is, let's just say I need to wait for daylight or whatever, and then go explore, the fact that I might roll into the drop yard and it might be discovered, oh, I actually have to go to the fucking distribution center first, even though I've asked my company and they've doubled down on this is where you're delivering to. Like they never physically come to these places, so how do they know, right? But I might be inclined to just go to Walmart, and as long as I stay there for a minimum of 2 hours off duty, I can manage my clock. But I might potentially be able to do that at the drop yard because I might, now we're close enough to Atlanta, I might try to sit in a Walmart parking lot where a local tow company is pulling a scam where they're going to try to put a boot on my truck or whatever. Like that shit, that type of shit really happens, you know? Oh, no, you know, there's signs with just enough legalese, right? And because of the economics of now we're nickel and diming the driver, the company is actually going to expect me to pay for that, right? And just why am I left to, and again, this is the delusion. Like to me, this further reinforces the unreality of reality. Like, is it even possible except in a delusion, a Moloch's machine designed to almost perfectly, you know, run me through this gamut of nonsense on some level, right? And by the way, back to what I've asserted on recent streams, the way it has to be, this realm is exactly the way it has to be to achieve what it's in the process of attempting to achieve, which is to the antithesis attempting to disprove the validity of the proposition or the thesis. The thesis being that the most powerful force possible is my essence, and I suspect it's your essence, the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency, right? Specifically, the so-called alpha and omega, the source of all creation, God, as it were, right? By the way, why is that one of the most made fun of songs? What if God was one of us, right? And to me, that in a way, that's the realm mocking what I am, right? Because that's almost pretty close to the reality as far as I can tell. What if what I truly am is one with what people seem to think they mean at least some of the time when they refer to God, right? The idea that God is love, right? So when properly identified, here come the slow mergers. Slow it down. Slow it the fuck down. Get down to about 50 because there's a truck going 60 and you can't get on the road unless you go slower than him. Slow it the fuck down. But what if he slows down as soon as he sees you? What do you do now? Right. Slow your roll when you're merging into this interstate. You know, that's still a relatively new phenomenon. Slow it the fuck down. You're merging into the interstate. I mean, I could just imagine in driver's education back in the day when I was being formally instructed on how to merge onto an interstate. You know, what if I had the audacity back then to suggest, well, maybe that's the time to slow down? Just the levels of ridicule I would have been subjecting myself to. Are you crazy? You want to cause an accident? That's the last thing to do is to slow your roll in the merge area. Are you nuts? You only do that if there's no other alternative, meaning if it's just physically impossible to speed up enough to get in front of whatever's in that lane. Now it's almost every car that hits that on ramp on their way to that merge area. I see them. I see their speed as they're on that ramp. As soon as they hit that merge area, foot off the pedal, Slow the roll. Coast. Coast and glide into the fucking freeway. But why was the energy want to accelerate up the ramp then? Bizarre. Uh-oh, they're creepy. They're creeping up on me. He's creeping up on me on my side. He's got side by side with me. Probably caught sight of my face in the side mirror, lit up by all these screens. Got fascinated. Wants to. These motherfuckers will watch anything, even if it's my face while I talk. Even if they want to watch the side of my face while I flap my fucking gums. How did you catch me, sir? And now you're not getting away from me, and I'm going 55 because I slowed down. You creep. I felt creeped out by your behavior, sir. What is this? We all 55 now. How did you catch up to me? I don't understand. How did this happen? You didn't catch me by going 50 motherfucking 3. I know that. What is happening? And maybe the company's starting to figure out. Now they're going to pass me on the right with the lane ending. Hilarious. I'm going to go 50. I mean, the way these people are driving, this is complete insanity. You know. Well, I don't know what to tell you. They've slowed my truck down, and y'all are driving like a bunch of lunatics, simultaneously trying to run me off the road, slow merge me, and then I got Creeper just driving directly up to me in the middle lane of 3 lanes, just trying to get side by side with me to just watch me. This is all happening simultaneously somehow. Right. Again, what is this? This is Moloch's machine. It has to be this way. It can't be any other way. Right. It has to be this way in order to do its job of, if at all possible, disproving the proposition. And the proposition is my nature or essence. Right. So if this trucking company figures out, well, if we decide to that we want him to hit 3,300 miles this week, like I did recently, I got paid for 3,250 week before. I guess not this check, but the one before, which would have been the work I did, the week before last, I guess. That week began 3 weeks ago now, I suppose, however that works out. Then they're going to have to run me on my preferred schedule, or if they don't mind me driving between 400 and 470 miles a day, run me during the motherfucking daytime. Run me through big city traffic during the daytime, right? Run me to motherfucking Houston and Atlanta and all these, places where if I'm running in the daytime, we can't hustle up and make a lot of this happen. It's just not possible. And I'll shut down by 3 or 4 every day, and that's just what we'll do. And I'll roll out 10 hours later at 1 or 2. And if they decide they can make money under those, I prefer that in a way, because I don't want to drive 3,000 miles every week. I'd rather average 450 a day for 6 days. What's that? Even 400 is, that's 24. That's probably not quite enough. Hell, I'd be happier with 2,500, right? But again, in America, under this capitalist society within the delusion of Moloch's machine, the national religion is consumerism, right? Then it's taken for granted that I would rather drive more miles because that means I have a bigger paycheck. Meanwhile, no, I would rather hit exactly 2,500 every single week. That'd be my preference. And by the way, if I do that, if I drive 650, so 625 4 days in a row, and that's my entire week, so be it. Or stretch it out over 6. I don't give a fuck, right? Whatever. But I would prefer exactly 2,500 miles on every paycheck. Yeah, let's do it. Great. whatever that is times 55 cents, and then subtract around 30% for tax liability, right? And now whether or not the government ever gets that money remains to be seen. I suspect they will, but all I have to do is make sure I have it. And then they're like, oh, what about penalty? Well, penalties are dead. Render unto Caesar. Let the dead bury the dead, right? Have at it. Here you go. Here's my pile of money, right? If take it, you can't get blood out of a turnip. So once they've taken my pile of money, what else is there to do, right? Put me on the payment plan. Well, what if I'm now post dead employment? Employment's dead. So, at some point in my life, no matter what happens, I will be past the point of employability, right? Whether, if that's the end of this physical life or whatever leads to that, it's not employment into perpetuity, but how many of us view life and view everything through that lens of, employment, full employment? Just the fact that the system talks about the idea of full employment, right? Well, some of that concept will be internalized, meaning, well, I need to be at the level of full employment, right? And it's somehow my duty to go out here and produce for society. No, it's not. Society's dead. How can it ever be my duty to produce for society's benefit in the context of capitalism, corporatism, and all? How can that? Now, I'm free to internalize those ideas. The people I interact with are free to treat me as if that's my duty in life as a moral imperative. Nobody can ever force that data on me, ever. I don't have to accept any of that. I'll just say, well, you got to deal with me, I got to deal with you. Meaning, yeah, I understand that y'all are trying to foist that upon me. Okay, I'll foist something else on you. Okay, you want me to internalize notions around it's somehow a moral imperative to be productive within society. Okay, what about that 1.15 trillion that taxpayers gave to rich bankers for interest on the national debt last year, which is the majority of your income taxes? So part of why people might want me to say it's a moral imperative to produce, right? Part of that is based on you need to pay to play to pay into the system. Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and remind y'all, look at what the system is doing with the majority of your taxes, right? As a taxpayer, right? It's giving it to people who are already so wealthy that 10 generations from now, their offspring or descendants will never have to work a day in their lives unless they want to. Also known as the laziest people possible, right? I'm gotten a little too close to Atlanta, but we're trying to find a place to pull over and go to the restaurant. So bear with me. It's becoming to be fraught with peril. I've ventured a little too close to Atlanta proper, but we'll find a little spot to sneak off onto the side. On this wide spot. It's not, there's still, it's going to be a little difficult it'd be slightly dangerous trying to creep back into traffic as people do take this off ramp, but I think we can pull it off. It's one of the drawbacks of driving when it's pitch black. I was unable to determine. And now the fucking, I'm just going to, okay, there it is. Never mind. I'm going to go off duty briefly. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me, folks. Oh, yeah. So what I'm describing, by the way, when I talk about the realm of death, destruction, delusion, and in fact, that is what this realm is a literal delusion. And in fact, our experience of it is fractalized, or I shouldn't say that. What I have access to as a level of experience is based on fractalized delusion. It's delusion within delusion within delusion, or like fractalized, perpetual delusions, right? So we might as well just call it one delusion. And that is the surrealism or the unreality of the reality itself. So what I'm describing is the process that some of the processes whereby my essence, which is one with the most, and again, true knowledge of self, which is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest levels of vibrational energy. I'm describing part of the processes of transcending the delusions or delusion. And how I approach this logically with the reframing or the proper framing, right? Not allowing the realm or the delusion to, because the realm will also always provide framework logically, so-called common sense and word of mouth and, conventional wisdom. The Moloch's machine will always have that at the ready. And this is what I've been talking about, that the general public not processing data for themselves individually is, in fact, the system packages. And let me see, can I even I guess I could probably take this exit and get back on the, yeah, I can just keep straight, it looks like, and get back on the road. So it's not quite as dangerous as I might have thought it was going to be. So bear with me while we make sure nobody crashes into us. The speeds are going to be hitting this ramp are going to be pretty high. Perfect. We nailed it. Good job, Bubba. Good job, Bubba. Perfect place to stop. Well, ideal. Yeah, because now I can see we're about to hit the part where it's going to be just hard to stop. Although I have mastered the art of pulling onto the shoulder in bumper-to-bumper rush hour Atlanta traffic to relieve myself, and then also to be able to get back into traffic. I've mastered that art back during my rookie season of truck driving. So a lot of what I'm talking about here is the various processes whereby my essence or nature is transcending the delusion, right? By simply refusing to identify with the validity of the delusion itself, while operating within the delusion at the level of, well, handling money, purchasing products, right? Doing certain tasks, right? Just life in general, right? But without strongly identifying as, well, I drive a truck, therefore I'm a truck driver. This is part of who I am. No, it really never has been. I don't really view myself as a trucker, right? And in fact, that's such an undesirable thing to be anyway. Like, I don't know, I understand it's culturally a thing, the movie Convoy and Keep America Moving, but realistically, there's nobody, and some people have it in their family and blah, 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 but, viewing oneself as I'm a trucker, it's really not a thing. It's really just not. There's some pride in it to some extent, but just not a thing overall. So now I need to make the choice. I've got about an hour to decide. Do I go to Walmart and try to park in their parking lot, and then they'll be opening right about 20 minutes after I get there? And then as long as I spend a minimum of 2 hours there, I'll be good on my clock, right? Just in case. To at least hit my 400 miles, right? What did I drive? Let's see. Here's what I've driven since I've restarted. Let's see. So Tuesday was the restart. That was 0 hours. So Sunday I drove, that was the last day before the restart, 533 miles. Then 0 miles. Oh, I'm sorry, 227 on Monday. That's where things begin to go wrong. So the company was like, hey, that was a trailer search day. And then finally the company's like, look, it's better for you to just take a restart, get a new 70. So then Tuesday, 0 miles. Then Wednesday, first day back from the restart. So first day of working. So Monday went on this paycheck. So that's like a half, not even barely a half day. So 228 going on this paycheck, the next paycheck rather, not the paycheck for today, but so next Friday's paycheck, we got a 228. Because remember, the company's always approaching this like we have high turnover. One of the big reasons why a driver leaves is their pay, right? Meaning a lot of drivers are looking for a reason to leave anyway. One or two short paychecks in a month, now they're already disgruntled. Now maybe they're going to quit. But then my argument is always, well, the industry has 94% turnover. Really, realistically, this company's picky in certain type of ways. Realistically, this company's ability to not experience turnover outside of their drivers that have been with them for years and years, that core group. And some of them are already retiring. Some of them are, they already know, well, you can't turn this guy's truck down or he will leave, right? Whatever that is, whatever that version is. As the company transitions into this new breed of whatever they're going to do, right? And certainly the company's in transition. And, I'm pretty sure the safety guy has some version of an ownership stake in the company, some version of profit sharing. He seems to act as if that's the case. Maybe he just has a very attractive bonus structure. I don't know. Whatever that is. I think I am going to try to go to the Walmart. Give me a second. I'll get back to this yapping about truck driving. But, I'm going to make sure that whatever path this is trying to take me in with the Walmart is actually viable. Reminds me of that lady, the lady with the 13 years of trucking experience, just dismissing out of hand this notion of, not every single Walmart supercenter I can just drive my big rig into it and park and go shopping. And she's like, well, yeah, trucks. I understand that trucks deliver to all of the supercenters. I don't know that has anything to do with me being able to just willy-nilly drive into every single one of them and go shopping. But, so I need to scrutinize the entrances and the ways to get into that motherfucker and to get out on the GPS to see, is this even doable? And I'm pretty sure it is, but I need to double check. Now, there's also a truck stop. Here's the wrinkle of a truck stop nearby, but that would involve dropping the trailer because it is the time of the morning where there will be some spaces open. But do I really want to drop the trailer and drive 16 miles round trip or whatever that would be to go to Walmart? Probably not. So hang on, we're attempting to figure out, did I set the waypoint properly to just know? Because sometimes what happens is the GPS is set up to, hang on, I need to make sure we're on the proper road here. Give me a second. We got it. We're in Atlanta taking different roads and such. So give me a moment. We got to be in the proper lanes to do all of this. So mission aborted. So the GPS takes over and just says, oh, well, this is what we've decided is the truck entrance. So even though I set a waypoint, it's not abiding by my waypoint because it doesn't understand that I'm not attempting to deliver a load to the Walmart. I'm trying to go there and shop. And I don't want to accidentally pull in going the wrong way and be fucked. And I think I know which lanes to be in from experience of Atlanta. I've trained myself over time because it's so fucking painful to get to where I'm getting to if there's heavy traffic and not be in the correct lane. And in fact, I realize now I need to be one lane over, but once I get around this curve, I should be able to do that. Yep. Because now we're going to have to merge onto the bigger road. Yep. There we go. Just as I suspected. The muscle memory. I know this area quite well. Been driven through this motherfucker many a time. Believe that. Bear with me. We're in light traffic, but traffic nonetheless. So 5 a.m. and all of these people are hustling up to get somewhere to do something. So it's that early morning rush energy out here. All right, 18 miles. So let me go back to staring at the GPS to try to figure out how to drive into this Walmart. So I do need to buy some things. So trying to figure out where can I set a waypoint far enough away from the supercenter that it won't try to take me in the entrance like I'm delivering to the store. Manual this bitch. Aha. I see. Part of the problem is you can't turn in from the way it wants me to approach. I have to go all the way around the fucking mountain here. Right. What the hell? No, that's not true. Yeah, that's it. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I know. I see exactly what we need to do. We need to hit this little turning lane. Yeah, create route. Almost there. Thank you for your patience. Then we turn right. Then I'll just have to slow roll because there's like one way I can physically drive into the. I see there's one way I can drive in without having to worry about dragging my fucking trailer tires over the landscaping. All right, cool. Bet. So that'll be in 37 minutes. And then at that point, we'll be waiting about another 20 minutes for the store to open. And then probably the stream will end at that point, although who knows? Who knows? Hard to say. Probably though. And I think over time, I'll eventually train this company to realize that, you know, I'm shutting down 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So if y'all, and I'll be back at it at 2 a.m. So y'all probably better make sure to schedule the loads where I've got something to do at 2 a.m. Because the fact that if they schedule it to where now I'm not really doing anything like yesterday till about 8:30, it's like, well, I'm not extending my night until, I'm not extending my shift to 8 p.m. because of that. That is not going to happen. So yesterday, back to what I was trying to say earlier when I was describing the work week. So I did 427 miles my first full day after the restart. And then, wait a minute, shit. 440 yesterday. And then today, by the time I make this delivery, we're looking at around, by the time I'm leaving Atlanta, I should be at around 270 for the day, which means not that many more miles to, to hit that 400 or 450. And if they're happy with that level of production, that's fine with me. But if they want me to crank out the 3,000 to 3,300, it's just not going to happen with me fighting daytime traffic. I'm going to be so tired. I'm going to need to go to sleep. It's going to be not more than 500 miles probably. That depends on how much can I get done early in the day. Because I will push, right? I'll push, but once I got into Knoxville yesterday and all that traffic, and just like I'm not pushing my way through traffic for 2 more hours. Just not doing it. To get to a truck stop right as it's filling up, by the way, to arrive at a Love's truck stop at 5 p.m. and to fight all the other drivers for whatever spaces are left. I'm just not into that. It sucks. I'm not willing to fight over parking. Right. It's not going to happen. I've seen them fucking race each other for a spot before. Not doing that. It's beneath me, right? That's dead. And then also when I look at the layout of some of these truck stops, so some of these, the company will never know, these dispatchers, like part of the truck stop I stopped at is I know I can park there without getting blocked in. If I drive 2 more hours or an hour and a half, yes, I understand I'm probably not fighting for parking. However, I'm looking at the layout of the lot. It's like, yeah, I'm going to end up parking somewhere. I'm going to be blocked in when I wake up. When I wake up, I'm going to have to go knocking on the trucks to tell them to get the fuck out of the way so I can start my day. I'm not into that. I knew based on experience and the layout of the truck stop I parked at last night, oh, I can park somewhere where they can't conceivably, they could still block me, but I mean, they can't just conceivably block me in and go to sleep. Right. It'll at least be somebody like just waiting, maybe they fall asleep in the driver's seat, but as soon as somebody wakes them up, they're going to get the fuck out of the way, so they can park. I don't even really care. That's fine. Whatever. That, by the way, that doesn't really even happen. It's usually people creating their own parking. So when I'm looking at the parking spots, it's like, yeah, except if drivers decide to, they can park 3 deep perpendicular to my parking spot, and now I'm fucked when I try to roll out of the truck stop at 1:30. What is this? This is crazy. Here's how badass of a truck driver I am. I woke them up in a motherfucking blizzard one time because I paid for parking, parked on an iced over parking lot, right? Iced over roads, and everybody came in and blocked everything because in their world, it's like, well, fuck, nobody's crazy enough to go back out and drive in all of this, except here's Benton waking everybody up at 6. But my thing was, okay, I'll wait till daylight because it is a little more dangerous. And I was still, not completely experienced driving on the ice and snow, although I've always been good at it. It's like, so my compromise is I will wait till daybreak but I'm hitting the motherfucking road. And, it's like these people are probably just, everybody assumes, well, nobody's leaving the truck stop anyway. Oh, bullshit. Bullshit. Y'all are getting the fuck out of my way enough because I'm getting out of here. I got work to do, buddy. Y'all can do whatever you want. I'm about to be going 35 miles an hour on that icy snow, delivering this load. Probably picking up another one. And I will happily live in this truck. I'll do all this bullshit short haul. It's not technically short haul, but you know, basically the load is it's a 1 day load, meaning that if the driver, especially an owner operator, if they pick the load up with a fresh clock, the load is the exact distance where they can deliver the load and then maybe pick up another load, maybe not. It just kind of depends on how the day worked out. Right. And then, yeah, I will, maybe I won't do that technically on 1 clock, but I don't give a fuck. Who cares? I don't care. But my productivity is going to be between 400 and 500 miles a day. So that's up to the company. If we're going to call it a day, probably no later than 4:30 every day. And I'm going to go my happy ass to sleep. Have at it. Now they're running me to Houston. I fucking hate Houston. So what? Who cares? I'll go to Houston. I probably won't park in a truck stop there, but I might. Last time I actually found a truck stop in the Houston area, it wasn't bad at all. It was bad as far as, I actually encountered a lot lizard fucking aggressively approached me. That hasn't happened in a long ass time. That's almost unheard of these days. Because how many times have I mentioned truck driving on here and then somebody in the chat wants to talk about lot lizards? Meanwhile, I got nothing to do with a lot lizard. What are you talking about? Lot lizard would have to pay me. Meanwhile, I'm not into that. Right. If for some insane reason I decided that I needed to access a female body, I'm pretty sure I can make that happen on my own. For free, although all men pay, as we know, in one way or another. But in a way, and again, is it a version of ask and ye shall receive? So in the old days, not being properly identified with my own nature, I would be so stressed out and taking things personally and angry about how the truck driving has been going that I wouldn't have even realized, well, actually, Benton, you would rather just drive 400 to 500 miles every single day, or, whatever version of 2,500 miles a week. I would rather do that anyway. Right. Now, the company will never truly believe that on the one hand, but I've told the safety guy. So what if the safety guy actually believes me and he drove a truck enough to understand that, since I don't have a life, I'm not taking home time, that probably I actually would prefer 2,500 miles a week every week, and I don't know, maybe the dispatchers, maybe he talks to them on the back channels and they're, like, hey, what about this guy? What if we're not able to get him his miles this week? What if he's like, oh, actually, he'd rather be closer to 2,500. So, the company might still want to get me closer to over 3,000 for their business plan, but he basically, the thing is, this guy's never going to get mad and quit because his paycheck after taxes is only $1,000, right? Are you kidding me? I'm happy with that. What, $1,000 to my pocket? Meanwhile, in this case, it's like almost 1,600 in my pocket. Except at some point, the government, Caesar's going to want his pound of flesh. Okay, take it. I don't give a fuck. It's dead anyway, Caesar. Let the dead bury the dead, Caesar. Have it. Have the dead money. Take it. What do I need with it? It's dead. What good is it to me? But it's still real within a delusion. It's as real as anything in a delusion can be, right? The money. Yeah, it's not real. You're right, Drew. It's not real. Shout out to Chunk Body Outline. But it is kind of real too. It's both. It's real and unreal simultaneously. It's real, but it's the product of a delusion. It's as real as a product of a delusion can be. How about that? Unreal or surreal at times. And shit's about to get real weird, I think, based on what I'm seeing. And it's already weird. By the way, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. That's me. I've been weird since almost since day one, Jack. So when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. That's me. And I even misremember that famous Hunter S. Thompson quote differently. And I know a particular YouTube content creator also referred to that. And I posted in his comments or maybe emailed him and said, well, actually, I had to go back and double check myself. It's when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. That's the famous Hunter S. Thompson quote. But we misremember it at times. But it is when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. The going has gotten weird, and it's going to continue to be weird. So part of that is this idea of supposedly, you know, these executives with Target and these other big box stores, you know, Walmart, Target, and all these saying, get ready for empty shelves. And then the idea that, well, the Port of Los Angeles is down 35% or whatever. Now, I don't know this for a fact. My suspicion is, you know who's not going to experience empty shelves? Amazon. My suspicion is that Amazon is going to continue to be able to deliver whatever in the fuck y'all are ordering and I'm ordering. Because part of me is saying, well, you know what, Benton, it's past time for you to buy some new footwear. And in fact, it's so past time, I already bought new footwear. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit. It's really not even worth my time to try to figure out how to return it, having never returned anything to Amazon. I see people going, oh, well, it's easy. You just do this, you just do that. Well, I'm driving a truck, so you have no way of knowing if it's easy for me because I'm in a big rig. So let's not just go, oh, well, don't word of mouth me and go, oh, it's easy. You just do this, that, and the other. Well, except I can't even do step one because I'm living in a big rig, so I don't know what to tell you. But thanks for the consideration. And is some of this involving printing out a label or a piece of paper to tape to a box? I'm not even really able to do that necessarily. Oh, well, you just go to Kinko's FedEx. Yeah, except have you looked at one of those on a big rig? Have you ever tried to drive a big rig into where a FedEx Kinko's is located or whatever they're calling these places? Like, yeah, probably not accessible. Right. And, you know, the safety manager might suspect that I'm still that first year Snyder driver in a way, because as I'm telling y'all all of this, it's a never ending series of me, instead of speeding up, I'm slowing down. I'm slowing down. I'm slowing down. So when my truck would go 75, especially when I did not have a very heavy load, the answer to a lot of what I'm encountering would have been speed up, speed up, speed up. Well, the company's now telling me, hey, buddy, slow it down. Right. So is dispatch starting to adjust to, well, wait a minute, we're slowing it down instead of speeding it up? 3 weeks ago, Benton was hustling everywhere at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, you know. Now it's slow your roll. And then it's slow your roll. And then it's even more slow your roll. I'm going 50 right now. 50 motherfucking miles an hour. Right? Happy to do it. You mean I get to live in a truck and I'm going to get paid for 2,500 miles this week? Hell yeah. That's a perfect week if you ask me. Yeah, I would prefer not to go to Houston, but whatever. I'd prefer not to be driving in rush hour Atlanta traffic in the near future. So what? That's part of the job. Part of the job is yo ass in a traffic jam in Atlanta, partner. It just comes with the territory, right? Been there, done that. And that's if nobody crashes. If they start crashing, all bets are off. Could be yo ass in 3 hours of just sit your ass down for 3 hours on the interstate. Right. Pull the brakes and Go hang out in the sleeper. And more to transition to a slightly different topic, but it is apropos based on if I do leave trucking, then I'm relegated to some version of, relocating, going to the West Coast to be able to sleep outdoors, based on the weather, which it does get cold, you know, at times. Or, historically there was some version of, maybe being in the deep South, Texas, or, Austin maybe, and, staying in a homeless shelter. I've spent time in many different homeless shelters, some on the West Coast at times. But I don't know, man. More and more, I'm starting to view the homeless shelter itself as sort of a thing of the past. And in fact, that was one of the big things of the pandemic, the fake pandemic, is a lot of that stuff just shut the fuck down. So a lot of the homeless stuff just straight up shut down, and a lot of the shelters was like, yeah, we're still going to be a shelter, but we used to accommodate 100 sleepers. Now it's like we're going to social distance, so it's a max of like 15 people or whatever. While simultaneously, in almost every area of the country, even places that historically would not allow somebody to pitch a tent without hiding, right? Like East Tennessee, parts of North Carolina, like places I pitched the tent in or camped under a tarp, right? At times. Yeah, I was free to go pitch a tent overnight on the little patch of woods next to the Walmart, but part of that is, nobody's coming back there, but then I'm also decamping in the morning. Like I'm packing my shit anyway. So the rare times the authorities ever came across my little spot, which typically would only ever happen if I had a car, right? Without the car, it's effectively impossible that the authorities would ever need to come happen upon my camping spot. But it has happened time to time, but almost always when I had to try to park a car nearby, or I was choosing to rather. And then me just telling them like, hey man, like I'll happily get the fuck out of here, but if y'all don't mind, I've already made my camp and I'm leaving first thing in the morning anyway. So if y'all don't mind, I'll just get a good night's sleep and then roll the fuck out of here. And most of the time they're like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. I even had a state trooper found me. Eagle-eyed state trooper found me, and I almost put a camo tarp over my car. I almost was like, should I even bother to throw this tarp over this car and stake it down? And I didn't. He saw my fucking car in a field, like tucked into the corner of like a field on private property. The fucking Versa was able to off-road just enough to get back in there, Goddamn state trooper came and approached my tent on foot. Wanted to know if I had any weapons and all this. I'm like, hey man, I'm just back here sleeping, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna roll the fuck out of here in the morning. And he just wanted to know, do I know the owner? And I'm like, no, I don't know who this is. I'm rolling. I'm not, I'm gonna leave it like I found it, and I'm rolling the fuck out of here if it's okay with you, I said I'm more than willing to pack all this stuff, but I'm just gonna have to go find somewhere else to camp out. So he let me stay there. Now I did have a firearm in the tent, but there's no reason to tell him that. And a lot of me I'm probably not willing to go back to living that way. Part of that is I'm not physically capable, probably, although I might be, but it's just probably too physically arduous to carry, all that gear, even though I've gotten it down to probably around 35 pounds total, just because I've gotten really good at it, carrying a pack. But I've spent so many years carrying a large pack. I got sick of it because, if I want to ride the bus, it's like two seats. If the bus gets crowded, it's like I now I'm taking up two seats, just dragging the fucking thing around everywhere. You have to watch it like a hawk or it's going to disappear. You know, it's just a whole thing, man. I'm not into it anymore. It's really not. Now, at times, strategically, sure. But then the homeless shelter thing doesn't even seem like a thing anymore. Practically speaking, that seems to. I'm sure they still exist, but it's just not a thing like it used to be. That's the sense of it I'm getting anyway. Thank you, sir, young Jim. Uh, best wishes to yours truly in the chat. Thank you, sir. Much obliged. So, again, back to the true knowledge of self, I'm having a very different experience of truck driving, being delivered from the past necessity, right? What do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention or something. But so I was inventing out of necessity by not being able to properly cope with certain aspects of how I was choosing to live, at the level of being stressed out and, all of this because I did not know another way. Now that I'm able to interface with all of this with the proper identification, PI, properly identified, it's like, well, yeah, the truck driving is dead. The company is dead. The idea of transporting a load, it's all dead, man. Like none of that has life to it. So like, what's it even? It's a delusion. What does it even matter? So, not in a nihilistic way where I'm going to treat it like it has no value, right? Uh, because of how I am the value, meaning even within a delusion, whatever I choose to interface with, as long as I'm properly identified while I'm doing it, I am the value. If that makes sense. I am the value. But yeah, back to the slow your roll. I mastered the art of getting people the fuck away from me by slowing my roll with Snyder because that's the sitting duck aspect is if I need to go 63 as much as possible, I can't get away from people. But it's like my willingness to slow the fuck down can get people away from me, right? So yeah, maybe they're going to try to send me back out west with a 68-mile-an-hour truck, but yeah, I'm probably going to go 60 motherfucking 3 and then, slow my roll when people try to, cling to me. And then also I'll then be able to speed up to 68 if I need to pass somebody. Right. It's like, yeah, as long as y'all ain't in a hurry, I'll slow roll my way out to Phoenix and back. That's what's on the menu. Whatever. But if y'all gonna try to send me out there with a slow truck on a damn time crunch, first thing I'm gonna say is absolutely not. I'll get it there, but I will not get it there when you're telling me to get it there. Not with a slow truck. Nope. I need the right tool for the job. But see, the corporate structure is what dictates. This is back to my notion around corporations will not compete with each other for the price of labor to drive the price of labor up. Competition is a sin, and labor will be performed at the price that's set by the corporate structure, and the corporate structure itself will dictate the conditions under which the work is performed. And the way the corporate structure operates is I'm free to fuck off and not drive this truck, and it's already 94% industry-wide turnover, which means part of that turnover, you can't have 94% turnover unless somebody's willing to take the job when I leave. So that means somebody's going to drive this truck under the conditions that the corporate structure sets forth. And now, in order to position itself within the overarching corporate structure, this company is now adapting and changing to doing things differently. I seem to have caught the tail end of we hire new drivers and slap them into a 75-mile-an-hour truck and, just send them on their way and give them long runs and let them go out there and pile up the miles, right? Well, that's dead. That's becoming a thing of the past, right? Meanwhile, the mega carrier, right, the company that all the trucking companies are trying to grow large enough, get rich or die trying style, they're all trying to get big enough to either get bought out to retire. And like I mentioned, I recently heard, and I didn't fully make the point, but even one of these like fourth generation truck driver families, one of the guys just said, yeah, I sold out like 5 years ago or whatever on this mother trucker interview. So he sold out and cashed out and probably took 50 million to his pocket or 25 million to his pocket free and clear, right? Paid out his business partners, paid out whatever he owed on the debt or whatever. And then, free and clear. And then he's like, oh yeah, now, I'm about to I'm in the process of turning over I started a little 100 truck. I started a new company and it's 100 trucks to 150 trucks. I'm about to turn that over to my kids or whatever, the version of that. Well, in the corporate structure, right? That's, it's not this idea of our family identifies with the family name of this company. It's no, once that company gets big enough, we sell it, we cash out, and then because that guy probably cashed out at the age of 50 or 55, right? Maybe by 45 or 50, because he's really good at his job, his business. Then he was like, well, shit, I got to do something. So he went ahead and just kept doing this. He just started over with a new company, right? And now he's like, here you go, Nepo babies. And if you fucking run this thing into the ground, well, I already cashed out anyway. So, whatever, here you go, have it, right? So this company is either in the process of attempting to do that to get big enough to sell out. And maybe these people are a little more ambitious. Maybe since they're from another culture, they might be looking at cashing out, hundreds of millions perhaps. Or they might get to the level where one of the big boys will say, well, let's say there's another company trying to become a big boy. So they might say, okay, we got 250 million cash to buy the company I work for. But then the company I work for might look and say, well, shit, if I get to the level of this company that's willing to and able to give me 250 million, now I have the opportunity to get to that size. And then at that point, they might say, well, shit, I might be able to get to the size of the big boys, to have a seat at the actual big boy table, to become a Snyder or a JB Hunt or a Knight Transportation, Knight Swift, or whatever, whatever that is. So in the course of all that, of course, like I said, the way the mega carrier works, they can employ me, pay me as a W-2, however much per mile, and then only ever run me 2,500 miles a week on average and absolutely make a profit. Some of these carriers who don't have direct contract freight, they can't run me 2,500 miles a week and make a profit, especially not with as low as the spot market is. It's not physically fucking possible. They got to try to run my fucking face off and nickel and dime the fuck out of me to try to maybe make a profit, right? depending on what their equipment costs are, and their insurance costs. Right. You know, that is the truck driving industry, which is dead, by the way. That's all dead. Render unto Caesar, let the dead bury the dead. My thing, and this is where I got with ART Transportation, my previous company, where not having reached the true knowledge of my own nature within myself, having not fully, again, which is really what it's to have not yet fully explored my internal space. Eventually, I was able to fully to explore my physical space enough to grasp, oh, my essence or nature is in there. And this is, by the way, I came to the realization, oh, my essence is one with the most super intelligent force of energy possible at the highest levels of vibrational frequency. And I can never unring that bell. I can backslide and choose to go back into error and so-called sin and folly and the desires of the flesh. And then I will degenerate to a state where intellectually I may still understand certain things, but I won't be able to viscerally, directly experience that anymore. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it's certainly possible, right? Certainly possible. But yeah, let the dead bury the dead. Let those who identify at the level of their identity, at the level of making their way in the world, with making the family name proud, right? With leaving something for their children while they simultaneously offer their children as a sacrifice to Moloch, right? Where's the honor in that, by the way, right? You know, de facto sacrificing of their what is supposed to be their seed or their own value, right? Their offspring to offer that their bloodline to offer that up to Moloch as a blood sacrifice, even if only a metaphorical sacrifice. Do you think Moloch cares either way? Why would it? That's all dead. Render unto Caesar, let the dead bury the dead. Right? Have at it. None of that has anything to do with me while I drive a truck with a CDL engaged in commerce. Yeah, I'm living in the truck. I'm killing multiple birds with one stone by sublimating myself, right? Through a process of sublimation within a delusion, fractalized delusion, right? Go along to get along style in some way, while increasingly being unable to internalize notions around, well, I know when I felt the pressure yesterday, when I temporarily felt a little bit of pressure to continue driving for 2 more hours, but then looking at, okay, here's a truck stop I would stop at, and it's not set up for me to park at based on what I'm going to do. Right? I'm either going to have access to parking where I'm going to get blocked in, or by the time I get to this other truck stop, it's just going to be now I'm there late enough in the day where even if they block me in, I'm going to start my day later and it's probably not going to matter so much. Or now I'm going to be fighting everybody else to try to park right at 5 o'clock. I'm not about that life. So the Flying J in Knoxville that I stopped at was the last motherfucking truck stop that was set up to facilitate what I'm trying to do, living in a truck, right? And if the dispatch don't like it, too fucking bad. I'm not that's dead anyway. Let the dead bury the dead. That's dead, motherfucker. Let the dead, meaning you, dispatch, let the dead, and I'm not going to tell them that, but that's my attitude. Let the dead bury the dead. Now, maybe they're interfacing with me based on that. Maybe their thing is just, hey, we're here playing a game. We're going along to get along. And I doubt it, but it's possible, you know. Namaste, motherfuckers. You know, maybe if I know what's in me and maybe I see a little bit of it in you. That's what namaste means, by the way, if anybody's curious. That's the meaning of the term namaste. Sort of the divine within me recognizing and greeting the divine and within you, or it's what it's supposed to mean. But then again, I can't ever be completely sure that what's in me is in you. What I got, you got to get it, put it in you. Well, that's not even a thing as far as I know. That sounds like what the antithesis would want us to believe is possible. What I got, you got to get it, put it in you. What I got, you got to get it, put it in you. And it turns out Anthony Kiedis, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, that he was some kind of sex creep, right? So, oh, does the GPS think I can make this left turn here, or is that a right turn? I hope that's a right turn. Otherwise, we're in trouble. I think it's a right turn. Anyway, we'll find out when we get there. Hope it doesn't think I can make a left turn. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No, we're good. We're good. And you know, that's the major reason that I, after cleaning the truck out a couple of weeks back, that I, a couple of hours later, came back to the yard and moved back into the truck. Is, you know, it was faced with the reality of, you know, what I'm going to have to do something with my physical body, you know, at least up until I, you know, go to Arkansas and, you know, renew my driver's license, you know, assuming I'm going to continue to do that, which I probably will. There's too much upside and not enough downside. You know, might as well keep the old CDL. I think I've been to this super center, but I won't really know until I pull in. Almost to the Wally World, and then maybe another 20 minutes yapping, and it will be time. Assuming I'm able to actually get parked. It's not a given. I might pull in and immediately be like, oh, fuck. The tow trucks are going to be on top of me. Although it's going to be close enough to the opening of the store. But then some of these motherfuckers will know the guys, and the will just fucking slap it on there anyway, the boot. And because they know they can hold the driver hostage, and they know the trucking company, you know, it might take a few hours, but eventually they will send the fucking EFS code to be able to have $1,000 or whatever to take the boot off. And then some drivers have talked about, well, shit, just go buy you an angle grinder and just take that motherfucker off, because it's definitely a legal gray area. Right? It's for sure a legal gray area. Put the flashers on so they understand that. Yeah, I might be in the lane you need to be in, but I don't know where the fuck I'm going yet. I'm going to drive as slow as I need to go in this pitch blackness to figure out where the fuck what I'm doing. So if y'all want to ride right behind me and get impatient, that's on you. By the way, if you're also going to the Walmart, it's right there. I'm going slow enough. Feel free to get in front of me. I got to make sure this is in fact the proper entrance, which I believe it is. But we're watching the GPS like a hawk. Oh yeah, we're good. See, there's a bunch of rigs. There's a bunch of rigs there. We just never really know till I get here. Again, in an information age. Although It's looking like we're about to drag our fucking trailer through uh, over a curb. And I can't see it back there, but I just have to assume it's up on that curb behind me. And of course, 10 people are arriving to the Walmart for work while this is happening, just stuck behind me. You know, that never fails to materialize, right? So they can be annoyed and frustrated. Because, you know, none of these places are open yet. But feel free to go around, by the way, because I don't know where I'm going yet. So I have to scout out how I'm going to enter. But then, you know, they don't want to do something wrong and pass a big rig. It's like, I don't know, maybe you should. I'm just going to sit here until y'all figure it out. Because what I'm not going to do is end up in a bad situation where I can't get to where I need to go because I let a bunch of these. How is there 6 cars behind me, by the way? This is the unreality of the realm. Nothing is happening. The moment I turn my big rig off of the main road, it just activates the area. I'm looking at 8 different cars. Like, so mathematically, you tell me, how do we all live our lives and we're all meeting here and now? It's not possible. You'll never convince me this is completely real. It's not. It's simple. And now back to nothing. Now that I've just affirmed that I'm going to sit here, and yes, I'll be a little frustrated. I'm just going to sit here, and now it's gone. How did that wave perfectly arrive with me, and now it's gone? That's not possible mathematically, y'all. Mathematically impossible. What just happened? That's Powerball winning. That's to win the Powerball. Oh shit. See, we're fucked. See, we missed the somebody broke it. It looks like at one point, oh, okay, I see. I am able to get in here, but only if I'm super careful. All right. This is such a wide turn. I don't know if we can even make this. They put in the poles, and I thought we could make this turn, but I don't know that I can. So we might have, see, now we're freestyling. This is the whole point of what I was attempting to avoid. Now we're freestyling. And I know these trucks figured out a way in, but I don't know how they got in. So now we're problem solving and we're solving a puzzle. So hang on, let me get off the drive line here. So I have to figure out which way to go. But remember, the lady said, oh, you can just go to any Walmart with 13 years experience because, you know, trucks deliver to all the Walmarts. It's like, yeah, except here I am solving a fucking puzzle. So what are we talking about, right? And I'm sure she's doing her version of solving a puzzle. And now I don't know how the fuck am I going to get out of here once I get in. I don't see any way other than the Lowe's parking lot, personally. And even this is not looking good. But technically, it's this turn. I'm making a right turn. It's doable. But it's not looking like fun either. But where I thought I could turn in from the satellite view turned out not to be the case. Because you can't fully ever be sure until we're eyeballing it. Right. And then I don't think Lowe's opens till like 8 or something. Now, is that security that's going to tell me to leave? That's the question, because there's no rigs over here. And that's a Walmart truck. That's all Walmart trucks over there. So I don't know. I'm probably just going to get told to leave. If that's security, but I can't tell if it is or not. It's parked and got its lights on like it could be security, but that doesn't mean it's in fact security. Could be, though. Could be somebody waiting for their shift to start. So we're going to sit here for a moment and see if they're going to jump out and approach my truck or not. This is all part of being a truck driver. And again, the word of mouthing and the common sensing. Oh, you can always go to, you can shop at any Walmart with a big rig because, trucks deliver to all of them. It's like, yeah, maybe black lady, maybe you can pull up behind the Walmart and just park, kind of out of the way and not get yelled at. I can't. They're on top of me in 5 seconds if I try to do that shit. Not everybody has the same experience. Oh, we went back to the drive line. I accidentally hit 5 miles an hour, by the way. So whatever 5 minutes I had off duty, that's dead. 10 minutes creeping around the parking lot to sit here to see is whoever's in that car going to get out and tell me to get the fuck out of here or not. Because I'm not parking overnight. I'm going to go into the Walmart shop. But sir, this is the Lowe's part. Yeah, I get that. I couldn't figure out how to get into the Walmart parking lot. And meanwhile, that's all Walmart trucks, so they drive right into the truck entrance to deliver, and that's how they got over there. See how it works? Anyway, I'm feeling okay about it. And by the way, when everybody wants to complain about, oh, nobody wants to work anymore, and Gen Z this, Gen Z that, Gen Z, if that is, now they're driving my way though. It might be coming to tell me to leave. Gen Z's happy to just, until somebody directly tells them, hey, when a big rig pulls up, go tell them to leave. They're happy to just sit over there and do nothing. But here they come. Are they going to come tell me to leave is the question. I see a yellow shirt. I see, is it? Yeah, it's Georgia plates. So now I got to sit here and just walk. Because what will happen is the moment I let my guard down, if that's security and they're going to approach me, that's when they'll approach me. They'll only ever approach me as soon as the moment I try to stop, or it will be when I have my guard down the most. But it looks like maybe they're employees of Lowe's, who, by the way, most generally aren't going to give a flying fuck if I'm parked over here or not. And I've delivered to Lowe's before in previous jobs, so it's not unheard of for a trucker to just be sitting here waiting to deliver. Now I have to scrutinize what could possibly be happening in the area I'm going to try to drive back out of to get the fuck out of here, because there's already people starting to park their cars over there. So am I in fact going to be able to leave or not? I think so. Let's see, 2 hours from now is 7. This place probably opens at 7 though, right? What time does Lowe's open? I might have to do my shopping at Walmart and leave anyway. Like I might not be able to sit here for 2 hours. By the way, add this to the 10,000 reasons why most people, even if they wanted to earn the amount of money I earn, and even if they wanted to, they learned how to drive a big rig and wanted to drive a big rig. This is one of the 10,000 other reasons why most people would just not be willing to do this job. It's like I have to scrutinize everything to see, am I even going to be able to leave here? Because there's the indoor lumber yard. You get a few people pulled up, in the loading area. You get a couple of people parked in a couple of parking spots, and now I can't get the fuck out of here necessarily. Right? Trapped like a rat. Go ahead and look at the sat. Yeah, no, YouTube is you know how they are with notifications. I got to where they just would not send me in a thought experiments. They just would not give me the notification no matter what. Now, and if they did, he would have already been live for like an hour. It got to where they just flat refused. I could go in there and turn off the bell, turn the bell back on for all notifications. Didn't matter what I did. But then if I was like, in a video and in the list of other videos, it would just show up down there, right? Like, oh, here's the thumbnail and it says live, right? Anyway, let me get back to figuring out if I can leave this place or not. So if worst came to worst, uh, I can't go around the building because it doesn't go through, but actually it might. Their trees are so thick you can't really tell. But it looks like if I had to, I could drive up to the front of the building and go around to their dock and at least have enough room to bust a Yui and get the fuck out of here. Although I think, uh, yeah, we were probably good here, most likely. Probably I'll back up a little bit though. I am taking up some of the. What time does Lowe's open? 6. Wow, was not aware of that. Uh-oh. May not be able to make 2 hours, and this thing should probably be jumping by 8. I mean, it's all dead anyway, right? Does it even matter? But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and back up so I don't take too much of the, since I'm parked like sideways across a bunch of parking spots. Let the contractors and the subcontractors, when they come in to start buying their lumber and such, whatever they're getting, back it up, give them a little more parking if they need it. I'm actually going to turn the engine off for once. Oh, how about that? If I remember, I will make sure we have enough oil. Oh well, there's the low battery on the earbuds, and I was just thinking it's probably kind of in the stream. So, all right, appreciate y'all being here. Bye.